Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Cajun Night Live. I am your host, the Cajun Knight, Jacob Mook. And if you are watching this right now, you can tell that I am in the new studio space. Ravenlee and I have moved to a new studio space. Hopefully, this will be the one for good, at least for the next few years. So if you're watching this right now, I hope you're enjoying the visuals. If you're not, and you would also like to get these shows commercial free and see what the hell we're talking about as we go through our conversations, the only place you can go is patreon.com/Cajun Night. Link is in the show notes below. We only got one tier for entry. Okay, we're just trying to grow this to be its own information sharing group that meets up once a week to discuss the things and the stuff and things, if you will, that we find to be important in the world around us. To be honest with you, sometimes it is religious conversation and debate. Sometimes it is completely geopolitical and current events based. And sometimes it's just us about what we have going on in our lives. Yes to all the above. This is an inclusive group, same as the cult of conspiracy. We are inclusive as over here, to be honest with you. I'm gonna have to edit that out for the YouTube, but that's fine. It's fine. Okay, we ain't worried about that. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and share the screen. We're gonna get started with the topic of this evening. We are starting off real quick. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Bop bop. All right, we are starting off with this conversation piece, right? This conversation starter, if you will. We're gonna go ahead and start with Trump's nomination for the new FDA lead. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like most people didn't know anything about Heidi Overton before Trump brought her name up. But here we are. So Trump nominates Heidi Overton to lead the FDA. Overton, who is a physician, is a White House aide who often briefs Trump on health issues. Okay, this is Heidi. And I've heard some things. I've heard some people talking some mad about her based off appearance, race, weight, her gender. There's people that are they're sipping on that haterade, y'all. They're sipping on the haterade, which fine. Somebody who enters the public limelight in this way, you're going to be getting some haterade regardless. Okay. I'm not even saying it's unjustified. I'm saying that I personally didn't know who this woman was this morning. I feel like most Americans would say the same thing about her. But let's talk about her, Dr. Heidi Overton. President Trump will nominate Dr. Heidi Overton to be his new Food and Drug Administration commissioner. He said Wednesday on social media, Dr. Heidi has been a rock star in my administration. Overton, who is a physician, is a White House domestic policy official who regularly briefs the president on various health issues. She was at his side earlier this month when he announced an executive order aimed at reducing the number of universally recommended childhood vaccines. Yeah, that's kind of been a big point that I've heard a lot of people talk about. She was very big on reducing the number of vaccines that kids get. Not zero by any means, but cutting out some of the more, excessive ones. A lot of people would say this makes her a conspiracy theorist because she's trying to cut out vaccines. Others would say that she, is a physician who's reading the paperwork and saying, hey, maybe we don't need 86 vaccines before this child is 12 years old. Maybe that's a bit much, but all right. At the time, she urged blue states, Democrat states, to adopt the administration's gold standard recommendations, which many doctors said were not supported by current science. Current science like Fauci, who's taking the stand and pleading the fifth at every conceivable point because his science also murdered so many people from the 80s and 90s to now. That's the science we're trusting. But all right. Trump referred to the event in his post announcing the pick. Heidi is always right. Secretary Kennedy recently said in the Oval Office, he posted, we need her leadership at the FDA now to ensure that the U.S. remains the world leader for scientific discovery and cures. According to a senior administration official with knowledge of the process, Overton was Trump's third choice for the position, and the administration was still interviewing candidates for the role Tuesday. Former Representative Brad Winstrup, who's a Republican from Ohio, declined the job, the official said, as did acting FDA Commissioner Kyle Diamantis, citing his young children and other personal reservations. Nobody wants to be the top guy in his administration right now, which, to be honest with you, I get. I really do. the amount of people that have walked away from the administration that were seen as like key figures. I'm not even talking about Kemp. I'm not even talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not even talking about Bongino. It's like there's a list. There's a growing list of people who are putting some serious distance between themselves and Trump right now. I don't think that's an accident. That's just me being a conspiracy theorist, I suppose. But 1 + 1 still equals 2 here. So, do what you want with that. Anyway, if Overton is confirmed by the Senate, she would lead the agency at a delicate time with the recent multi-state cyclospora outbreak. Is that the thing where it's just like dysentery? You eat some lettuce that's infected and you shit your brains out. They're calling that cyclospora. I think we just call that the shits this far south of I-10, but okay. All right, fair enough. Raising concerns about the safety of the nation's food supply. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from the great state of Louisiana, the chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, which will oversee Overton's nomination, said he has strong concerns. All right. Her lack of managerial experience does not prepare her well for leading a large organization that is already dealing with staffing and morale issues. Additionally, Dr. Overton's active role in last week's nonsensical vaccine executive order calls into question her commitment to stand up for sound science and protecting children's health. That alone is almost disqualifying. Almost disqualifying. But all right, fair enough. Cassie wrote this on X. Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat from Washington, shocker, who is also on the Senate Help Committee, called Overton a far-right anti-abortion extremist who has no business leading the FDA. I've already spoken on my beliefs as far as abortion goes. I don't think being anti-abortion makes you an extremist. I think that makes you somebody who believes in the life of the unborn. But like, all right, sure. If saying that life begins at conception makes you an extremist, then okay, fine. You got me. But okay, that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinions. Some people have the right to be wrong. The American people deserve someone who will put science and facts first, not another Trump sycophant who will make their mission to attack medication abortion. I will vote no. Yeah. I've already said my statement on that. Murray and I do not align, oddly enough. A Democrat from Washington and I do not see eye to eye. To the shock of literally everyone in the chat right now, I'm sure. But fine. Okay. Republicans have a 1-member majority in the committee, which must advance the nomination to the full Senate for vote. Bloomberg was the first to report that Overton would be Trump's FDA pick. The timing of the official announcement is unclear, but is likely to be sometime this week. Overton would replace Dr. Marty Makary, I don't know, who resigned from the position in May after clashes with the White House over issues like vaping policy and access to abortion pills. Yo, why are those two on the same docket? Can we just acknowledge this? Vaping versus murdering an unborn child. I feel like I could be wrong. Y'all tell me if I'm out of line here, but I feel like murdering an unborn child who did nothing wrong and somebody buying vapes, which they, as an adult, which you have to be over 21 now, are making the conscientious decision to inhale shit that probably is bad for them. I feel like these are weird things to put in the same sentence. That's just me. I know I'm an extremist and all that. But anyway, Sam, I see your hand. The spirit animal. Go ahead and speak on it.
First off, you're not the extremist. I'm probably a lot more extreme than you are. But
That's
if
fair.
you want to talk about some stupid that the government does, just look at ye old London, the province of England stand.
Yeah.
So that it's okay for them to have gangs and females to be done like that, treated like property, but if you're born after 2008, you can never smoke tobacco. And my theory is because it has been invaded. England has failed. Hell, the king is a Muslim. So,
Yep.
and tobacco is considered haram, but not goats and children are not. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Just look at.
I don't like how England has now passed that law to where they're going to just stop tobacco sales for anybody who hasn't started smoking yet. They're going to say, nope, never mind. You're never
Oh
going to
no,
smoke.
if you were born after 2008, you will never be legally allowed to get it. And but England, and there's a lot of Englandese or whatever the fuck you want to call them.
English?
I don't know. I call them redcoats, bloody lobster backs.
There you go.
But yeah, no, they're like, why would we want to go to America? They're so backwards and backwaters. I'm like, y'all just mad because we gave you that L 250 years ago, first of many, and you just, but yeah, y'all have so much white guilt. Y'all have pussyfied yourselves.
I don't even know
Show
if
the
it's a
world
white
the
guilt
empire that
thing.
you.
Go ahead.
I'd say that England should take their hand, reach into their wife's purse, grab balls, pull out, reattach, and say, you know what, fuck it. We were a world empire at one point. Time to bloody well show them, hey, we still got some balls. But yet they've been completely castrated by their parliament. And yeah.
Yeah, and I will say that the English people, the citizenry itself, are standing up slowly but surely. The government, however, the parliament and everything else, yeah,
The
it's yeah.
the current regime of the IRA legitimately just said, hey, if you don't get all these immigrants out, we will give you a civil war. So all I guess is the black and tans they better watch out.
We'll see what happens. I'm hoping that the English people will take back their country. I don't have a whole lot of hope for that, but I do have
What?
some.
I mean, whether it goes one way or the other, I just feel like Ireland should be for the Irish, the Scotland should be for the Scots or Picts, whichever demographic you prefer.
Yes to both.
And I personally think England needs to grow the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also feel like America has some growing up to do on our own. If we're gonna call it a spade, let's make sure we call our own. You know what I'm saying? Like, for
Oh,
instance, all the Somali immigrants we need to just go ahead and eradicate, get them out. You know what I'm saying? All the
can you
illegals that are here, we got to get them out too.
I think we should go with how Poland is. Just like, oh,
Dude, I am loving Poland more and more by the day. I got,
little European Texas.
dude, they're straight up like arming their guards at the border, and it's like, nah, just lay them out. Just like, no, we're not taking them as prisoner. Like, no, you can open fire on people at the border. It's fine. And everybody's like, Poland, how dare you? And Poland's like, nah, we're on
Notice,
that.
notice how Poland is, while there is some diversity, there are no rape gangs in Poland. There is no terrorist attacks in Poland.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
Soccer,
we're
right?
not calling for a crazy statement like perhaps we should keep the rape gangs out of a country. Saying that apparently makes you some sort of a bigot, and it's like, no, I actually
Oh
think that
no,
makes you a normal human being to say such a statement.
but no, Jacob, you got to realize that modern day that's called Islamophobia. And how? And my question is, how is that Islamophobic? We're not. I, for one, do not fear Islam. I just happen to fucking want to eradicate them all because I think they're a cancer upon the earth. That's not a fear of them. That's a healthy pattern recognition.
That's literally just pattern recognition at this point. There's certain systems, and you want to say it's a religious thing, fine, okay. There are certain religions that will forcibly ostracize the lower in your community, like Hinduism, for instance.
Um,
Hinduism gives way for the caste system, which makes the majority of the population untouchable, and they are like the scum of the earth, like lower than dirt. That's what
Jacob,
Hinduism does. The Vedic system does that.
Jacob,
Islam, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just to prove a point, and I like how you said in Islam, in majority of the Arabic countries, let's just Palestine and Gaza, for example. Do you know that they act? Everyone talks shit about the South because we had segregation and Jim Crow, which true, that shit's abhorrent and it shouldn't have happened.
Agreed.
But no one wants to talk about Palestine. They have they're in an actual apartheid state. They have the blacks separated, living in a certain part of town that they use the Arabic word for slaves.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yet, when I bring that up, everyone's like, "No, they don't. No, y'all
it's
just
it's
retarded as
crazy
fuck."
how even within the Muslim world, like you have to segregate the Shia from the Sunni. And by segregate, I don't mean, oh, we just make them, not get, no, like I have guys that were deployed that had to build walls between the Shia and the Sunni groups because they were just as likely to fire at each other and get into fights with each other as they were to fight somebody. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not the whole segregation conversation. I'm not pro segregation, especially not in the United States. I'm not for that. We also need to acknowledge that it's a case by case situation, and if the Sunnis and the Shias don't get along, we just keep them separate, and everybody's happy. You know what I mean? When it comes to Islamic extremism, there are certain Muslim countries that, while I don't agree with how they do business, I don't agree with their laws and things like that, they also are not trying to implement certain levels of Sharia law into their land. And all right, cool, that's great. There are certain Muslim countries that slavery, open air slavery, is still a thing today. Everybody wants to go on and on about the antebellum South without looking at Mauritania and Eritrea right now in the world that are still doing open air slavery. Libya, still doing it, but that's okay because that's a cultural thing. Meanwhile, in the antebellum South, when it was a cultural thing, everybody looks at them like they were abhorrent, but these other people, it's okay because that's their religious culture. You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense to me. I don't agree with slavery, regardless of if it's a color thing, a religious thing, a war trophy thing. It's not good for a civilization to move forward in our modern day. We shouldn't do it. Human slavery is the worst crime I could think of. So how about we just eradicate it?
What was the dickhead's name that tried to come on the cult and say that, oh no, slavery should be, it has a purpose and it's good?
Timothy. Now, his thing was he was talking about indentured servitude. If somebody wants to sell themselves into indentured servitude to pay off a debt, he was all for that. And like, cool, if a grown adult is in debt to such a level that they need to sell so many years of their life to some sort of a credit union or something to pay off their debt, that is a them thing and they're an adult. But chattel slavery, which is, straight up stealing somebody and selling them on the open market, human trafficking and shit. No, I'm really good if we eradicate all of that, to be honest with you.
Agreed, but you do know that majority like every race on the planet has been slaves.
Oh yeah.
And majority of and to just talk about the most recent quote unquote the transatlantic slave trade. Everyone talks about that this happened, but no one ever actually really wants to talk about that. It was the more powerful African tribes that would go and raid the lesser tribes, steal them, and take their women and children and men and sell them off. It was one of the African kings. I can't think of his name. Oh yeah, Mansa Musa. He made his entire empire was built off of slave trade.
It was built off of the salt mines and the gold mines, but the problem is if you look at how these minerals were mined in that day and age of Africa, it was slave mining. It was by hand.
And so, also, do you think I'm gonna give you a little today of the Roman Empire, about the 1800s, or today? Which one do you think has the most slaves?
Today.
We have more slaves today than the height of the Roman Empire, and over half.
Now, that being said, let's keep it fair. Let's keep it fair. We have a larger population than the Roman Empire did. So, we have to keep it in proper scope. But even with that being said, just because slavery has been outlawed in the vast majority of the world doesn't mean that there's still not a black market where this goes down.
There's open air slave markets over in the Middle East right now. I have seen videos of sub-Saharan Africans opening up bags of other sub-Saharan Africans and selling them.
Yep.
And whipping them with bamboo reeds because they're saying no, stop, and they still beat the shit out of them.
I agree. So, this is going on, but somehow disgusting. We need to be more focused on a country that pissed off our president rather than eradicating the true evil from this world. But that's the problem. If America goes on that kind of a rampage and becomes the world police, then we are just sticking our nose where it doesn't belong. And then on the other side, if we don't do anything and let that country who's doing this handle their own problems, America is weak for not doing what needs to be done. We're in a no-win situation. It's the same thing with the Erica Kirk, right? If she would have, never mind. We're getting way off into the weeds here.
The bitch that said that that no one could ever replace Charlie Kirk, but yet she could see how JD Vance could.
We could talk about the Erica Kirk situation with the debate that just went down, which actually I figure we were going to get to that point later on, but we still need to read the rest of this article. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to all of that. I didn't pull anything up with it because honestly, I wanted to just kind of hear what y'all's opinion was as far as the Candace Owens, Andrew, debate that went down. I have my own opinions about who won, quote unquote, and those are load bearing quotes, by the way, because I don't personally think there really was much of a winner. I have to give it to one party out of a technicality, but that's about it. Basically, I think that entire situation was a big pissing match for no reason. Nobody trumped the other one by any means. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. I still want to read about Miss Overton here. So she previously served as vice chair and chief of policy over the America First Policy Institute, a conservative think tank. While there, Overton celebrated the Supreme Court's 2022 decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, and with it, a national right to abortion. The ruling, quote, will allow Americans to reevaluate the value of the potential of every baby in the womb and choose life through a democratic process. She said that in a statement at the time. In a 2024 op-ed in Newsweek, Overton criticized Kamala Harris, rightfully so, because she refused to condemn late-term abortion, adding that Democrats won't even define what a woman is. Both of those statements are very true. Just so we're clear, I'm not saying I'm very pro Overton by any means, but yeah, Kamala was very cool with 8.5-month abortions and also was a part of the party that still cannot define what is a woman, because for some reason, having a vagina does not make you a woman in the liberal mindset. It's mind-blowing to me personally. I don't understand it, but whatever. I guess feelings trump truth when it comes to certain groups. You do with that information what you want. The FDA is conducting a safety review of the abortion pill mifepristone. If I mispronounced it, there you go. I don't really look into this because I think it's all abhorrent, but has not yet issued a report. Republicans have been pushing a reverse to Biden-era rule that allows mifepristone to be mailed and dispensed via telehealth, not just in person. Yup. The agency is also in the mix as the Trump administration seeks to make changes to the nation's vaccine policies. Good. As a White House advisor, Overton participated in Trump's signing last week of an executive order aimed at reducing the number of standard childhood vaccines from 18 to 11. Again, I find nothing wrong with this. I'm liking everything I'm hearing thus far. In remarks at the Oval Office event, Overton criticized blue states that work with outside entities like the American Academy of Pediatrics and recommend that she considered outdated shot recommendations, or what she considered rather. So you're saying, especially the states that are willing, take a look at the scientific assessment. These are the gold standard childhood vaccine recommendations. And you should put this into your state law so that when parents go to enroll their kids in school, they do not have to meet some requirement for vaccines that are no longer recommended for all children. Again, I'm liking this. According to Overton's profile on the America First Policy Institute website, she is board certified in public health and general preventative medicine, which was a general, surgery resident at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Very impressive. And completed medical school at the University of New Mexico School of Medicine. Again, I don't find much about her that I dislike as of this moment. It's very subject to change. Very subject to change. Didn't know anything about this woman just a few hours ago. So with that being said, I am very hopeful for this step forward. We'll see what she does, or will she just capitulate to whatever Donnie T says? I don't know. But let's learn about her a little bit more together here. So what to know about Dr. Heidi Overton, Trump's pick to lead the FDA.
President Trump has tapped one of his top White House health policy aides, Dr. Heidi Overton, to lead the Food and Drug Administration. Overton has been a strong supporter of the president's health agenda, including efforts to overhaul the childhood vaccine schedule and separate the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine into individual shots, changes that have drawn sharp criticism from medical experts. She has also advocated tighter restrictions on the abortion drug mifepristone. Her nomination comes at a consequential moment for the FDA, as the administration challenges long-standing vaccine policy and the agency confronts broader questions about the safety of the nation's food supply, including foodborne illness outbreaks and recalls. We're joined now by Lauren Gardner, who covers the FDA for Politico. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So based on your reporting, what stands out about Heidi Overton's background and President Trump's decision to nominate her?
Well, she's a doctor, which in the kind of recent history of the past few decades of FDA commissioners, nearly all of them have been medical doctors. She's double board certified in public health and in general preventive medicine. She also hails from Johns Hopkins. She has an advanced degree from there in clinical investigation. So much like her predecessor, Marty McCary, who was commissioner up until a few months ago. But also really notable that she is a top policy aide to the president. She's got a close working relationship with him. She was a fellow at the White House during President Trump's first term. So she is very plugged in on all of the political constituencies that this administration is juggling right now, particularly in the public health world. So, I think it's really notable that she really has that kind of political operator background for an agency that historically has tried to really toe the line and present itself as an independent decision maker.
And what more is known about her views on vaccine policy, and where, if anywhere, has she departed from the scientific consensus?
Yeah, she was present at the signing ceremony last week for the president's executive order on the childhood vaccine schedule which you mentioned. Advocating for essentially a more slimmed down and spaced out version of the current schedule. This is, not something that we've seen a lot of folks who have been kind of talked about in the FDA sphere really kind of publicly weighing in on. And she definitely spoke a little bit more about that and her vision for working with states on some of these issues last week. And I think a lot of folks who are, close watchers of the agency, whether they be lobbyists and pharma companies or, just public health advocates, are also asking themselves that question and are really curious to hear what more she has to say once she ends up on Capitol Hill, assuming that Senator Bill Cassidy schedules a confirmation hearing for her this fall, to hear what she has to say about some of these broader vaccine questions that have really come to the fore under Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership at HHS.
And if confirmed, she would take over an FDA that has lost more than 3,000 employees given the administration's cuts. And one area of particular concern is food safety. Looking at data from the FDA and CDC, there have been about 10,500 cases of foodborne illness associated with outbreaks this year. And that is 7 times higher than the annual average between 2021 and 2025. What explains that? What explains what we're seeing?
That's a great question. And specifically cyclospora, the one that, we're all really hearing about right now, that does annually kind of peak during summer months, which the administration has said as much. But like you said, this is a much higher number of cases that we're seeing now compared to years past. FDA and USDA, the Department of Agriculture, obviously both play a role to some degree in overseeing the safety of the food supply. But this isn't an area that Dr. Overton is particularly well known for, food safety.
Real quick, I just want to make a mention. So the reporter asked, what seems to be the issue with all the foodborne pathogens? The likely answer would be, well, unsafe practices within the food processing facilities. That seems like a very 1 + 1 = 2 answer to me. I don't know. And the FDA has a hand in that. You mean the hand in that? I used to work at a food grade facility. The FDA, we weren't worried about OSHA. We were worried about the FDA audits or one of the buyer's audits when they send somebody through to make sure everything's going well. What do you mean it plays a hand? That is the biggest hand. But all right, let's keep listening to this woman.
I haven't found any record of her talking about this specific issue, but I do think given the sheer number of cases that we're seeing and the fact that it's affected so many states and has really impacted people's eating habits and consumers' purchasing decisions in the last couple of months, I imagine it's going to be a hot topic of conversation as she continues to move through the confirmation process.
Okay, real quick. Again, no, Dr. Overton isn't well versed with the food industry because she is a medical doctor. No, she's not. She probably hasn't spent a whole hell of a lot of time in a food manufacturing facility, but she will now. I'm pretty confident of that. That being said, even still, there's so many cases. Y'all, we have 360 million Americans living in this country right now, legally, of course. 10,500 have experienced something. Y'all want to do the math on that? Let's even be generous and say it's actually closer to like 20,000 when it's all said and done. 20,000 out of 360 million. And then let's readdress how much of a crisis we are currently finding ourselves in. It's the same conversation whenever you hear, oh, there was a shooting. Well, 4 people were shot. It's a mass shooting. That's crazy work. 4 people, and we're calling it a massive thing, a mass shooting, a mass casualty, whatever the case. Like, I'm just saying the language that is being used is inflammatory, and that's by design moving forward.
There are functions the FDA is having difficulty carrying out right now because they simply don't have enough people.
Yeah, there are some functions within the agency that have had, kind of longstanding issues with either having enough folks or having enough resources really to be able to carry out their functions, whether it be inspections of food and drug facilities or just the, people who are reviewing applications for different medical products that have to go through agency review to get on shelves of stores in the US. There has been a lot of attrition, and this is going to be a major issue for Dr. Overton should she be confirmed as commissioner. And I'm sure this is something senators are going to want to hear a plan from her about in terms of, how do you attract people to an agency that has gone through so much turmoil in the recent past.
Lauren Gardner.
That was a non-answer. That was a non-answer. Yeah, they don't have enough people to go around, and hopefully she can find a solution, and they're going to ask her about a solution, but that's definitely an issue. Great answer. Great. That is prime reporting right there. My goodness. How could we have known what was going to happen without that statement being made? I'm going to go ahead and check the chat real quick. Good God, we have 41 chats that have been left since I looked last. Must be AI robots, maybe. Honestly, I think half of them just didn't get enough hugs from mommy and daddy. Yeah, I believe that. Absolutely. Let's see. It's sad when someone says something stupid like Latin X. Then, like the language itself has genders, masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. Latin doesn't. But a lot of languages do. Royce, just throwing it out. Your language does, Royce.
Spanish does. No, you're right. Well, Sam was talking about.
I see the Starbucks application with genders.
Right. So, the comment that I said. So, regardless of the language, so you're right. So, Hebrew definitely has genders, masculine, plural, neutral, etc. What I meant, people. So, Spanish. That's what I meant by
Gotcha.
Latinx. So it's either Latino, Latina, and people are saying, "Oh, it's the person who's a Latinx." What the fuck are you talking about? Literally, the entire language actually was made for genders. There is a masculine thing and a feminine thing, whether it's a noun, adjective, verb, whatever. Come on, it should not be that difficult.
No, I agree. I just realized I was way down in the chat. I didn't realize that so much was listed, so I just jumped in at the middle here. So I'm going back to the top here. Everybody's talking about different, alcohol and all of that, which, speaking of, Hayden Panettiere just died I don't have anything pulled up on her, but now, see, the first time I heard about this, it seemed like an accidental OD. Now, it is right after she brought up the fact that she was essentially trafficked to a higher level Hollywood person for, to take advantage of her. And she said no. She actually brought this up on the Jay Shetty podcast. And like a week or two later, she's dead. So I don't know if there's a connection there or not. Personally, I believe there is, but maybe that might be more to it. But anyway, let's see. Sam says, I've been over 120 in the KIA. The front end felt like it was lifting up. Oh, we're talking about motorcycles. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Sorry, y'all, I'm not at the house. All right, moving forward here. 3 years sober for me, the first man. Good for you, man. Good for you. We're talking about Royce's bike, which is phenomenal. Starbucks application has pronouns zer, they, them. Is that just a gay premium? Yeah. To answer your question, Sam, is saying I identify as zer, they. Yeah, that's basically like gay plus. It's like Disney Plus, Amazon Plus, Paramount Plus. It's just gay with extra steps, to be honest with you. I would argue more of a possibility and more of a probability of pedophilia being thrown in the mix. I'm just throwing it out. Most of the gays and lesbians that I know have no interest in children whatsoever. The trans and the alphabet people, the LGBTQ LMNOP2IA hashtag star plus squared and whatever. Yeah, they probably into kids, man.
I think you just tried to summon a demon, but no, sorry.
You would think.
Connections trash. So just for the record, I don't have a KIA. I have a Kia Forte that I got over 120 miles, and that's because Freebird was playing. So I had that, and that was on the way to Burr Grove. That's why I was late, if you remember, Jacob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Fun times.
Fun times. So fun. All right, moving on with the chat here. Tony says, Israel and Palestine are worse than apartheid. In apartheid South Africa, the whites did not drop bombs on the Bantustans. They didn't tear up their roads. Whites would love it if blacks would build and maintain their own infrastructure. Palestinians do, and the Israelis destroy it. Okay. Yeah, the whites may not have bombed the black South Africans, but the black South Africans are going out of the way to try to do a genocide on the white South Africans right now. And apartheid was horrible. Absolutely correct. But yeah, to your point, there wasn't like mass killings in apartheid South Africa. Now there are. And you're right also, the black South Africans are not doing anything to build infrastructure. If anything, they're destroying infrastructure that's already there. To your point, the Palestinians do. They do build their own infrastructure. They are trying to be their own independent thing. But let's also not forget that a lot of the attacks that Israel has faced, and I'm not talking about since the Iran situation or since the October 7th, but no, backtracking that, over the last decade, most of the bombs that have been dropped on Israel in the past decade have come from Palestine. That's not a crazy hot take. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, they had a bunch of cheap rockets, the Palestinians, and I think they're out now. After October 7th, Gaza was launching everything they had at Israel, and they ran out in like a week.
Right.
And well, the other direction, it's just obvious. Israel wants them out.
Yeah.
And there's a self-selection in the population. The ones who could already get out have already gotten out. The ones staying there now are the most resistant, the most likely to fight. So it's population selection. And I think the Palestinians are probably going to still be there for another couple of decades.
Yeah, I don't think the Palestinians are going to go anywhere anytime soon, to be honest with you. Although Netanyahu is trying to start his whole eradication campaign, I feel like the world, the court of public opinion, if you will, is not going to actually allow that to happen, especially with how many people are starting to turn from Israel. For the longest, American zeitgeist, Republican, Democrat, whatever, was to say that Israel and America are locked in for life. Man, I didn't think that we would see it happen in 2 years' time. But in 2 years, we went as a nation, as the cultural zeitgeist, from being like, yeah, Israel's cool, to like, yo, fuck Israel. And like that happened so fast. And they did everything they could to throw gasoline on that fire. It's actually kind of impressive to sit back and look at.
Absolutely. And generationally, the old people still support them all the way. It's people like under 40 who have turned pretty hard.
Yeah. No, it's an absolute fact. Sam, I see you chomping at the bit, dog. What you got?
So rebuttal.
Okay.
If the Jews, the vampires, Israelis, the sons of Abraham really wanted to kill the sons of Muhammad, right? If they were so genocidal, like everyone claims, why would they be throwing out leaflets saying, "Hey, leave or leave. We're about to storm in." And if they were genocidal, they would just go through house, street by street, kill every man, woman, and child, and be done with it by wiping out the threat at the root. Now, to say are the Israelis trustworthy? I don't think we should trust any country that is not our own. Yeah, we might work with them, but to make sure that, hey, while they're doing this, we also have a gun pointed at them, like, just in case, motherfucker. But
I would agree with that. I mean,
but at the same time, the sons of Abraham will always they will always kill each other. When one brother is up, the other brother is down. And look, I'm not even trying to be a dickhead when I say this. Y'all, this shit has been happening for the last 3,000 years.
fair enough.
It's
But
not
I mean,
going to stop.
it's the same
until one side kills
conversation.
the other one off. So,
It's the same conversation that the Native Americans have with white America, right? Okay, for instance, and this is just an example, there are a ton that I could pull from, but let's just go here. The Sioux versus the Lakota. All right, the conversation that we always have with certain political leanings, left, I'll just say left, is that whenever they give a speech, they start off with a land acknowledgement. Right. They want to give like a shout out to the people whose land they currently are on. And then they want to talk about like the public school system or whatever the case is, but they got to give that land acknowledgement. And they always come back to this fact that like the Native Americans had no concept of land ownership. And that's very inaccurate. The Sioux, the tribe that we would call the Sioux, actually came from Maine like 200 years before white people ever landed on North America. Okay. So that being said, they made their way and started warring with the Lakota. As a matter of fact, the only reason why they are called the Sioux is because the first white dude to make their way over there asked his interpreter, who was speaking to a Lakota, who those people are. And that dude said, oh, they're the Sioux. Sioux is the Lakota word for enemy. That's not their actual name. The tribe themselves never called themselves Sioux. That's a Lakota word for these people. So this tribe went across the continent and took over land from another tribe. So again, this whole conquest conversation predates white people and whatever else you want to think of as far as imperialism is concerned. So I'm with you on this. Now, if you were to go to Palestine and Israel, if you take a DNA sample from anyone from Palestine, you will find Jordanian blood, you will find Syrian blood, you will find Egyptian blood, because believe it or not, there is no such thing as Palestinian heritage. This nation didn't exist before Rome, and Rome only gave it that moniker because they didn't want to hear the word Judea ever again after the Second Revolution. So to your point, Palestinians are not a race. That is a people that inhabit a land that is not theirs. Now, they claim that it was theirs. All right, dope. That's how human existence works. If you stake your claim on land and you defend that land, sounds like it's your fucking land. If somebody comes and takes that land from you and you're unable to get it back, sounds like it's not your land anymore, because possession is 9/10 of the law when it comes to the international community and just reality as a whole. So that being said, if you take Israeli blood and you do a blood test on them, you'll find actual Jewish lineage that dates back thousands of years. And it's not a 100% situation. I understand it's very case by case. But yeah, listen, I'm not saying the Palestinians need to be eradicated by any means. These people have been there for generations. I do believe there has to be a way to have a two-party system. There has to be a two-state solution, if you will. Unfortunately, the Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. The Israelis don't want a two-state solution, regardless of whatever talking head happens to be on the mic saying that they do. When you get to the leader of each of these states, neither of them want to concede an inch of land. So it's just going to be one of these things that they're going to duke it out until one side finally capitulates. Neither of them have in quite some time. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But this is just where we're at with it. It's not pretty for anybody, so it sounds like it's a them problem, not an us problem. At least that's how I see it. Sam, go ahead.
Two-part.
Got it.
Also speaking about the natives, the Northern Paiute, they went over. They migrated from the east to the western. Sorry, to Nevada. They actually have a legend of them committing a genocide against the red-haired tribe of cannibals that are the giants of Lovelock Cave. Like their traditions tell that how they actually killed an entire tribe of man-eaters.
I mean, even with the Aztecs, the Aztecs subjugated every tribal group that was around them. They would launch the flower wars once a year.
Yeah. But the second part, how you were talking about over in the sandbox, the reason why the Romans named that area Palestine was really a rub towards the Jews, and were like, "Fuck you," and they named it Palestine after the Philistines.
Yes.
And also in Arabic, they don't have the P, so there's I am Palestinian. No, your own language doesn't even say Palestine, so you're an archaic liar.
I mean, okay, if that's the case, then there's no J in the Hebrew language, so to call them Jews is also you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we're going to break down semantics of the language.
Say that they call themselves the Jews because they follow Judaism, but
that
I'd say vampires.
Okay, fair enough. I see Royce and Tony both unmuted. I know both y'all are going to want to weigh in on this one. Go for it.
Yeah, Palestine, the name goes back at least as far as Herodotus, which is about 460 BC, which is before any of the Romans were going there. And it's referring to the small area that's called Gaza now. That was Philistia, and Palestine being used as a label for the whole place. It's very arbitrary. The place has had a whole lot of different names, a whole lot of different place names within it. And I don't think blood has nationality, but you can correlate it to geography. So the ancient tombs throughout what is now modern day Israel, DNA can be taken from that, and modern Palestinians do have a lot in common with that DNA, slightly more than modern day Jews do.
Wait.
There's been a lot of debate on this.
We're talking ancient burial sites. You're saying that the Palestinians have closer blood ties to the ancient burial sites found in just throwing out a random city, let's say Nazareth. You're saying that the Palestinians have closer blood ties to the ancient burials in Nazareth than the Jews do?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
I would love to see the facts on that one. If you have any kind of studies, and this doesn't have to be on this episode, this could be later on, whatever. I would love to see the studies that actually state that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll find something.
Absolutely. Fuck yeah. Royce, I see you unmuted. Do you want to weigh in on this one as well, being our resident Jewish correspondent?
Yes-ish.
Yes-ish. That's the most Jewish fucking answer I could ever hope for from you. Good God.
I mean, no, there's almost no yes or no. It's always ish or something. The only thing I was going to really say is that with this whole thing, there is the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of cut out, but I hear you now.
Sorry. It's true. While it's true that there were other nations that were a part of the Canaanite region, I mean, the Israelites conquered it. I mean, just like America and like the Native Americans. Native Americans have their own little portions here and there with their reservations, but America still owns America. One could argue that could be just a way, not necessarily the best way to do it as far as Israel is concerned. But as far as the argument about who was there first, it doesn't really matter who was there first. It really just mattered at the end of the day who was the one who conquered it at the end of the day.
Right. And I understand that's not like a fair conversation. I understand it's not fun to say like, oh, well, too bad, so sad, that's life. But unfortunately, that's the way that it's gone the entirety of human history. And people having like virtue signaling today is not going to change the way that humans have been humaning for forever. So, yeah, it's the same conversation to say that like China has imposed its way into Tibet. They're trying to impose their way into Taiwan. If China was to take Taiwan and be able to defend it from outside forces or from the Taiwanese people saying that this is not their land, if China is able to defend that, it sounds like it's China's island now. I don't know, but it sure the fuck sounds like that to me. The same way that if Napoleon would have successfully taken over all of Europe and defended it, sounds like Europe is owned by France now. Or Nazi Germany over Europe and Russia. Like, you see what I'm saying here? Unless an outside force comes back and says, nah, get back to where you belong, or if the local indigenous population is able to win fight the good fight and win their land and say, no, you can't cross this line because we said so. Unless that's the case, I'm sorry, a piece of paper is only it only goes as far as the piece of paper can be thrown. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this way too literally. Tony, I see you unmuted again. Please go ahead.
Oh, well, Sam asked, why don't the Israelis just do it way faster? And I don't know a perfect answer to this, but I think they have a much longer time preference and time horizon than most of us Americans do. If anything, they're kind of like the Chinese. And the Chinese, they're not going to take over Taiwan immediately. They're going to wait a long time. And I think the perception among Jews is they have a much longer view of history than most of the rest of us do. They think of themselves as part of a 3,000-year long, train of events instead of just, whatever's going on in this generation. And there is a lot of cost to doing it too fast. And they do care about PR internationally. So, vaguely, that's why they're not just doing it as fast as humanly possible. So go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
No. I agree with you, man. They can't just come in and eradicate the Palestinians because, genocide's never going to be a hot topic. No, it's never going to go over well in the eyes of the international community.
I'm glad you brought up the term genocide. Explain to me something. Why is it that
you're cutting out, bro?
B attacks Group A. Group A, fuck.
You there?
Do I sound?
You got to start over there, man.
Yeah, you cutting out like crazy. The last thing I heard was, I'm glad you brought up the term genocide, something, Group A. So
can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead and start
can you
over.
Hear me? No.
Well, all right then. I don't know, Sam. I don't know what you were trying to get at there, but if you are able to get somewhere where you have better service, brother, by all means, I would love to hear you weigh in on this one. What about now? I see you moving.
Yeah. So I don't know. Group A, minding their own business. Group B attacks Group A. Group B says, we're going to kill you all. Our religious text says to kill you, that the trees and the rocks will tell you where you are hiding, and we're going to kill you. So says our prophet. Group A comes back, fucks up Group B. Group B says, "Oh no,
Sam,
it's
you cutting out like
You're
crazy now.
us." Yet
You
there
cut
are
out
more
there.
people alive today in Group B than there was at the beginning of the conflict.
You cut out, but I think I understand your
I'll just
principle.
text it because
Yeah,
I'm at a shitty signal spot and.
Okay, fair enough. Essentially, what you're saying is you got Group A, Group B. Group A attacks Group B, and because religious text says so, Group B says, oh no, you're genociding. But somehow there's more in Group B population-wise now than there was when the initial conflict started. I think that was your overall point. And no, I'm not saying that there's a genocide against the Palestinians right now. A lot of people would say so.
Which there isn't.
There's not.
100% there is not. And
I'd say there is.
In
Just
what
look at
way
the
do you think there's a
satellite.
genocide?
Why would we care what Group B says when they're the one who has been saying, "Oh, we should kill off we should kill off all the Jews and death to America," but yet they start the war, they want the war, but yet when they get their shit knocked the fuck out, they go, "Oh no, you're genociding us. That's not fair. That's not great. Well, maybe you should have stayed the fuck home. Don't blow shit up, and you should have mind your own fucking business. You reap what the fuck you sow. You want this war now? Time to fucking die."
Fair enough. However, let's keep in mind that Palestine wouldn't have attacked Israel if it wasn't for Netanyahu giving them the funds and resources to do so. But hold on, Tony. You believe that there is a Palestinian genocide going on right now. I would love to hear why, because to Sam's point, Palestine and the Palestinian people, what's the current death toll? Just as an example, I don't know if you would like have that number off the top of your head or whatever, but I have a weird feeling that there's probably a lot less death there than there is, for instance, in the Ukraine-Russia conversation.
Okay, well, the estimates for Gaza vary between about 70,000 and 600,000.
Okay.
And Israel at first was denying that it was ever as high as 70,000, but then about a year ago they said that's actually a pretty good estimate. The 600,000 comes from a few people talking to UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese. And I think it's probably way higher than 70,000 because you just look at the damn satellite photos and almost all the buildings are gone. And also, who started it? Well, there's the 1970 borders, there's the 1968 borders. The Jews have done nothing but expand their territory more and more, and the population of Gaza was composed of people who were kicked out of everywhere else in
Let's
Israel.
not forget they gave back land, right, in the 2000s.
A
I
tiny
think
amount
it
in
was.
2005 because there were Israeli settlements in Gaza, and then the Israeli government said we're going to pull our settlers out of those. And the settlers did not go willingly, but they did get pulled out. I don't think any of them died or anything.
No.
But there's this settler population that's very, very radical, and they're the most violent ones. But they got pulled out.
So let's go off of that number. Let's say it is 70,000. I don't know what the population of Palestine is grand total. I don't know at what point you could classify something as a genocide rather than to say that it was, collateral damage. Like, at what point does it go from collateral damage to obviously there's some wild shit going on here? And I'm not saying that there was no wildness going on with the Gaza situation. Absolutely there was, right? We have tons of reports from all sides of the conflict saying that there was way too much brutality where it wasn't needed. I'm willing to be with you on this, acknowledge this. I don't know how we would be able to classify this as a genocide. However, I don't know. Yes, you can see the Israeli soldiers themselves are doing some wild shit, but those are usually smaller groups, right? This is the same conversation as say there was that Marine that threw a puppy off a cliff in Afghanistan. And that video went super viral. The Marines are trying to kill all the dogs in Afghanistan. They're these ruthless monsters. Or was that one guy being a shithead? Well, there's this group of Marine Corps snipers that are pissing all over dead Taliban soldiers. The Marines don't respect the dead. Maybe, or was that an isolated case that went viral and optics are everything? You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what the population of Palestine was prior to the, Hamas attack versus what it is today.
Gaza was 2.2 million, I think, from what I've read, and
Fair enough.
West Bank is the way bigger one at about 6 million.
Okay.
But also I've read that, and Sam brought this up, the population of Palestine has increased over the last 50, 60, 70 years.
Sure. People do be fucking.
Yeah. And somehow they have enough food and everything. But I don't know if I can trust any of the numbers coming out of there now since October 7th, especially from Gaza.
Well, what does it say? Like, what's the current population of Palestine? And granted, we need to take this with a massive heap of salt.
Well, Donald Trump was trying to set up this board of peace, and he said, I think Gaza is going to be a great place for the 1.7 million people who are going to live there.
So we went from,
okay, do the quick subtraction. That's 500,000 people gone from what it was assumed to be before October 7th. So he kind of may have let the truth out by accident there.
If that's accurate, and if there has been 500,000 deaths, And again, I'm not trying to like downplay that. I don't know what the international community classifies as like a number value associated with, okay, this is clearly a genocide, because there was Muslims that were killed in that attack. There was Christians that were killed as a part of the Israeli attack on Gaza as well. So I mean, it's not a racial thing. It's not, I guess you could say, a nationality thing, but even that's kind of a tentative statement. So I don't know. I don't know if this would actually be classified as a genocide, or if that is yellow journalism trying to make a thing bigger and more impactful than it actually is. I don't know.
Right. There's been this ICC prosecution report that's basically quote mined all of the members of the Israeli government who have ever said anything very harsh against the Palestinians
Yeah.
along the lines of get rid of them. Uh, and Ben Gvir was saying just this past week, if you're a soldier and you're not killing like 30 or 40 Palestinians a day in Gaza, you're not doing enough. You gotta crank those numbers up. And he's
Bro.
speaking Hebrew. This is Itamar Ben Gvir. It was just another statement this week. This guy's always saying shitty things. He's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Netanyahu is at least smart enough not to say stuff like that most of the time.
Yeah, I'll give you that. There are some people that are a little extra with the Israeli conversation. Netanyahu is definitely one of them. Hadn't heard Ben Gvir say that, but okay, that is a statement. And again, even I remember times in the military, dude, there'd be guys that would like get you motivated to go over and fucking slam heads against walls and like blood, guts, and chaos, all the things. I'm not sure if this was him speaking to the troops and like getting them riled up, or if this was him giving some sort of an address to the nation in like a press conference type situation. It could play very well in one case and not very well in another. So I don't know. Ben Gvir sounds kind of like a dickhead to me personally. Sam, go ahead once again. See you, brother.
Sorry. You brought up Netanyahu. No offense to you, Royce. You're my second favorite Jew, but fuck Netanyahu or Satan Yahoo, however you feel about him. I don't like him because in the front of the cameras and everything, he's like, oh yes, Israel and America, good friends, but he'll also say that we've been at war against Rome for the last couple thousand years, and then he also likens America to Rome, but behind the scenes, hidden cameras like, so how do you feel about American of the Jewish war on Rome or something? The book's weird. He says that America's the new Rome, and we'll never be friends with Rome. They're the enemy. So Netanyahu is definitely a snake in the grass.
Bro, you got to get to somewhere with better service. Sam, I love you to death. You've got to get somewhere where you have more than one bar of service, brother. It's getting bad. It's crazy work. But okay, Royce, if you could understand any of that, give your 2 cents on Netanyahu.
I have full Wi-Fi, and it's
Something's off, Sam. I don't know what to tell you. Royce, go ahead.
So I don't know because I think I'm not really into Israeli politics, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other
Good. Don't
about
get into
how.
Israeli politics. It's fucking dog shit.
Right. So like I don't know. A lot of what I know slash hear, I'll either read snippets here and there or what you guys have to say. So I don't honestly know. I know that I've had friends, or I have friends who live in Israel who know a lot more than I do, and they say that um, it's not how it always appears in the mainstream media. But like, yeah, I don't know. So I am a treasure trove of knowledge on other random shits, politics, and Netanyahu. I am an ignoramus, so I don't know.
Hey, you know what? You're probably better off for that, to be honest with you. It ain't pretty. It ain't pretty, no matter what way you slice it. Get into the chat here. Go ahead, Tony.
I want to go one step back to what I was saying about how educated Jews have a very, very, very long-term view of history, and to them, the United States of America has not been around a very long time at all. It's only been maybe a tenth of their history.
Right.
And they consider all Christendom to be probably their enemy based on their experience in the Middle Ages and Byzantine Empire and everything like that. So I think American Protestants think of themselves as something like the antithesis of Rome, but to educated Jews who think in a very, very long time span, you Protestants are still Rome to them. You're still Christendom to them, and you may be a fair weather friend right now, but it's been a very brief period of history where that's been the case, and it is not permanent.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to me, dude. It's crazy to me because the Protestants themselves have been very, very pro-Israel, right? And the Protestants do see ourselves as, I don't want to say the antithesis of Rome, I'll say the correct evolution of Rome. And the Protestants, by and large, are pro-Israel these days. More and more of them are turning from that mindset. As of like 6 months ago to now, most of them are turning from it. But for the majority of Protestantism, aside from Martin Luther, he himself being the quote unquote father of Protestantism, he himself led a few big pushes against the Jews in Germany, right? He even wrote a book that's outlawed in the United States about the truth on Jews. It's a whole thing. But, the Germans have always hated that. They got long-standing history of the Germans having issues with the Jews, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I could understand why the Israelis or the Jewish people would have an issue with Christendom as a whole, even though the only reason they exist is because, or like the nation of Israel exists, is because of Christendom as a whole. Right? If it wasn't for Christendom, World War II wouldn't have gone the way that they would hope, and Israel wouldn't be the nation that they are now. But all right. Yes, I understand the Germans had some sort of Operation African situation where they were going to take Madagascar and turn that into a Jewish haven. That was never going to work. There was 0.00% shot that was actually going to be a viable option. It is a thing that was written down on paper. That is the thing that a couple of German politicians were pushing for. The logistics of it do not line up. Just the very basis of infrastructure was not there. But that, yeah, sure. I don't know. It's never been a thing that I've never met a Jewish person who looks at me as a Christian and is like, oh, you're one of those. I have seen Jewish people feel that way about the Muslims. That is a fact, even in America. So I don't know. Oh, God, Tristan, I see you with your hand raised. Weigh in on this one, bro.
No, I just wanted to know, you consider yourself Protestant, or what do you?
Yeah. So if I had to put a title over myself, I would say that I am a non-denominational, I suppose, evangelical Christian. But there is a few nuances to that I don't really get into the whole televangelism side of things. I have a really big problem with a lot of the big mega churches and how they do business because I don't believe that church should be a business. I feel like there's a very fine line that should be drawn in the sand on that one. But yes, as far as that goes, so I hold respect for the Catholics. I hold respect for the Eastern Orthodox and what you might call high mass denominations of Christianity. I got mad respect for them. I do believe that they are in error. I don't believe that they are in what they might say anathema or whatever. I don't think that Catholics are going to hell because they think that the wine and the bread is actually Jesus' blood and body. I don't believe that they're going to hell for such a belief by any means, right? But I think that they may have a few errors in their beliefs. And they believe that I have a few errors in mine. There's no hatred here.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to know. I heard you talking about it a second ago, and I was like, I don't know if I've ever actually cleared up what he would call himself. So, all right. Okay, bye.
Fair enough. Although somebody asked in the chat, is Israel, I'm sorry, don't the mountain Jews own land in Israel? Now, I don't know if the Church of Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. the Mormons, a.k.a. Joseph Smith cocksuckers, a.k.a. the mountain Jews, I don't know if they actually believe that they own land in Israel because their Zion is in Missouri. Their holiest city on earth is in Missouri. So take that with what you want. It's I don't even know if it's a pilgrimage site for them or not. I do know that a lot of Mormons make a trip to that area once a year, but I mean, it's not like a yearly thing. It's just kind of a thing. You know, it's like saying like, okay, I like Disney movies, but I'm not going out of my way to go to Disneyland. It's a thing I could go to, but it's not a thing I got to go to unless you're a Disney adult, which means that you're probably a victim of. Listen, I'm not saying that every child molestation victim becomes a Disney adult. All I'm saying is that every Disney adult happens to be a victim of child molestation. You do with that information what you want. All right. The first man, I see the hand raised, brother. Go ahead.
If I recall correctly, yeah, Missouri is their big promised land area,
Yeah.
and the cornerstone for the temple, I think, is still there. And if I recall, though, the Catholic Church currently owns the land it's on.
God, if that ain't some sort of poetic justice, I don't know what is. Bro, the cornerstone is currently owned by the Catholic Church. Is there a church there? Is there a cathedral in this area? Oh my God.
I'm not sure. I've never actually been there to see it, but that's just I was former LDS, so that's just how the story's been told to me.
I didn't realize you were a former LDS. Holy shit. Hold on. Now we got to backtrack here. Are you from the Utah area, or are you from somewhere else that just happened to be LDS?
No, just happened to be. I was East Coast. Basically, my ex-wife is what got me into it,
Heard
and
that.
the more I see about the LDS Church, the more I understand why she liked it.
Wait. Hold on. Back up. Hold on. Your ex-wife is what got you into this? So times, pause, hold the fuck on. You were out there living your life. Would you have classified yourself as like a Christian prior to the marriage?
Not at that point, no.
Okay, so just kind of a believer in something, not really putting labels on it. And you
Yeah.
found a woman, you fell in love, all the things. You're telling me that shit was so good that you were willing to start wearing like holy garbs under your clothes for that ass?
Oh, I never had the holy garbs. I never got the McClesic priesthood.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were there, in thoughts and prayers. You weren't there in physicality.
Yeah, it was only about a year.
Okay, fair
or
enough.
so.
Dude, watching people convert their religious beliefs for their spouse, which is it's beautiful to see. You know what I mean? When it's genuine and all the things, good shit. I've mentioned this before. We had a Navy doc when I was in the Marine Corps, and we called him Jew Doc. First of all, because his nose was fucking Toucan Sam on his boy. It was bad. But I thought that he was born and raised Jewish, and that like led to the jokes being made. And of course, it's the military. We give each other the piss all the time, taking and giving, But no, he was born and raised Southern Baptist, but he was married to a Jewish woman and was going through the process of converting to Judaism and I'm talking the whole nine, wearing the yarmulke, all the things. And I'm like, bro, is it really like that good? Like I've never been with a Jewish lady, but like, is it good enough to forsake all of your upbringing and go to this route? And he swore up and down, yes, not just to her, but to the religion itself. All the things, bro. As soon as he converts and has a kid with this chick, 2 years later, she divorces his ass. Now he's paying child support so some other dude could live in his house. And I'm like, oh, you got God. You got God hard. So I don't know, man. Maybe the LDS, I don't know. Maybe throwing that Mormon ass on you was enough to make you convert in some of your ways. But no, you kept it true. You kept it wholesome in your regard, man. I'm here for it. Holy shit. Tristan, go ahead and weigh in. You also being former LDS, man.
I was just gonna say that actually, yeah, I mean, it's basically their Zion, the kind of, if I remember right, the kind of thing it's like where the Garden of Eden was and all that shit. Closest city to that, I think, is Independence, but they don't actually have a temple there. So the spin-off from the Mormon church, I think it's called like the Community of Christ Church or something. They have the temple there, and it is a fucking crazy looking building. You should look it up real quick.
The Community of Christ Church in Missouri.
Yeah, temple. Community of Christ Temple in Independence, Missouri. It's like an upside down fucking snow cone or something. So it was one of the brothers or nephews of, I don't know, somebody who thought that they should be the ones to take over control.
Whoa.
Yeah, look at that fucking thing.
Okay, pause. I need to ask you a couple of follow-up questions here, brother. So the Community of Christ, is this still considered LDS?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, I think they consider themselves that, basically. I mean, it's all the same shit, but like I said, when the Hans Mill massacre happened, which is where a bunch of them got killed, including Smith. Actually, I have like a maybe great, I don't know how many times great, but one of my great uncles freaking died right alongside of him too. I didn't even know until my grandpa passed away a couple years ago how entrenched my family is in the fucking history of the beginnings of the church, but it's fucking deep because like my grandpa, he wasn't even raised in the church. Like his mom was kind of Mormon, but not really.
Right.
And then my grandma made grandpa convert and join the church when he was like my age, when he was like 40, because much like me, he was a crazy fucking, he was an alcoholic. Mine was always kind of more substance, but he was a crazy fucking alcoholic, being a crazy asshole. And grandma's like, you are done with this and we're joining the church or we're fucking getting a divorce.
Wait.
So
Joseph
it's kinda
Smith was
funny.
killed. He was shot in the upstairs room and fell to his death. That was in Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
That was in this area. And yo, what the fuck is this? Y'all do labyrinths? LDS walks labyrinths and shit?
Oh man, I have no idea what the fuck that is, honestly.
I had no idea. I'm learning new things today, y'all. The Mountain
Yeah,
Jews got their own
me too.
wild shit. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean it's basically the spin-off. I can't remember if it was like Joseph Smith's nephew or fucking cousin or something, but it was somebody who thought that they should be the ones to take over the church when he died. They got fucking the boot, because everybody else followed whoever else was it. I don't think it was Brigham Young yet, but maybe it was whoever they followed out of Missouri into Utah is who obviously inherited the leadership of the church. But what?
Sam's still cutting out like crazy. He's jumping in. I don't know what to make of it.
Quit speaking, Sam. Nobody understands a fucking word.
He can't understand you, Sam. You got to get to a better area, Sam. That's essentially what it sounds like. I know. Sam, usually you're coming through crystal clear. I don't know what's up. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi or your phone or what's up. Maybe like leave the chat and then come back in or something. Maybe that will help.
He made the fucking Israeli Jews mad. Now they're fucking attacking his ass.
Is that what it is? He called for the genocide of the original Jews, not the mountain Jews. Jesus. All right. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't know that this place existed. So this is new information to me. I'm going to be looking up the Community of Christ Temple more in depth later on. Jesus. Okay. Royce, go ahead, man.
Well, the fun Jewish fact for the night is that if there is a man who converts to Judaism, if he is not circumcised, he must become circumcised. If he is in fact circumcised, then there is a ritual called tipas dam, which literally means drop of blood, where blood is drawn from that area to signify the circumcision being done.
Yeah, from what I asked him about that as well, actually. So he was already circumcised. The majority of Christians circumcise their children, and it's hitting like a 90%. It's becoming less and less common these days, but yeah, the majority of Christians, especially because he was born Southern Baptist, so a lot of the Protestant Christianity groups will definitely be circumcising their children. So I think he just had to do a little thing, little pinprick, little blood from the dick. He's good to go.
I had that, by the way, I had that done because because when I was a kid, I was circumcised in the hospital. So as I was becoming religious, I actually had that ceremony done on me. Actually, matter of fact, the same day that my son was circumcised.
The same day?
The same day. Actually, I had mine done, and then my son was circumcised. By the way, he also cried a lot worse during his first bath than he did when he was circumcised, which is very ironic.
I mean, I've had my sons circumcised, but honestly, that wasn't for religious reasons. That was for cleanliness reasons. But I know some people think that I'm some sort of a monster for doing that. And okay, fine. Y'all raise your kids the way you want to raise them. I'll raise mine the way I want to. But, I mean, hell, I've even told the story, man. My grandfather couldn't deploy to Korea until he got cut. That used to be a thing that you had to do in the military before you were deployable. Because if you are going without a shower for 6 months, they need to know that your dick's not going to rot off from God knows what. And it's like, well, that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to us now. In the 50s, that wasn't seen as so crazy, to be honest with you. That was just kind of what it was. But anyway, yeah, wild shit. And I didn't know that because I knew I thought, you were born, you have Jewish blood within you, but I know you were raised more of a, I don't know.
I was raised Christian. I was raised Christian.
Was it Christian or
I was
Messianic Jew? The two are not the same.
I was raised Christian up until I was 10. Then my mother discovered Messianic Christianity when I was 10. And so from 10 to 18, I was Messianic.
Okay, fair enough. But you were circumcised as a child, like at birth, so to speak.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So all you had to do was give a little blood when the time came. So I hope it didn't leave like a scar or nothing. That would be weird.
No, but I almost passed out because I didn't eat anything that morning. So that was fun.
Dude, I
was like, woo! I got loopy. Yeah.
I'm like that with needles, dude. I'm that's the thing. I'm not scared of like tattoos. Seeing a needle doesn't do nothing to me. Getting stuck, I didn't even know that was the thing until boot camp. Running the gauntlet, getting stuck 13 times in like 30 seconds apparently made me drop. Dude, still to this day, I'm like that when it comes to needles. I hate it. That's one of my biggest flaws that if I could change about me, I would. I will also say though, whenever I would give blood back when I was a drinker, I loved it, man. You go donate a pint or a quart, whatever they take off you. Then you go right off the little vampire bus and you light you up a cigarette and go slam you like 2 beers. You're vibing at that point because you're already running a quart low. You know what I'm saying? Everything hits a little more intensity at that moment, which was perfect for me. But yeah, man, the first man. I see you, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, back to the Mountain Jews. After I got out of it and I started getting into this world, I decided, I'm going to look up the meaning of the name Moroni, the angel that came to Joseph Smith.
It's a very good rabbit hole to dive down into, man.
Yeah. One of the harder ones that will pop up, but you have to kind of dig for it, is the meaning is from the place or at the lake of fire or something along that line. Found that a little interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole Moroni thing is I'm gonna be honest with you, any group that's trying to name an angel is a little silly to me because there are a few angels that were named, biblically speaking, but even to say like the Metatron, that's not, at least in the Christian literature, nowhere you're going to find that name anywhere. I think there may possibly, and Royce, I don't know if you even dug in on this one, there's a Jewish source that names the Metatron, but that's not like a name that Christianity is supposed to really acknowledge. Then you got Moroni. That ain't nowhere in the text. Completely made up start to finish. But then again, so is the entirety of the storyline of the Book of Mormon. So like, all right, sure. For throwing things in, why not throw in a little extra thing here and there for flair? I don't know. Royce, do you know anything about the old Metatron?
So I know that he's brought up for sure in commentaries for the Torah. I'm sure he's brought up in Gemara. I will tell you this, that even when it comes to that angel's name, or that angel, that most people do not say the entire word. We say matat. We actually don't generally say the entire name.
So you do believe in this angel?
So yeah, for sure. I think that they're saying that the angel that his who is associated with God's name specifically, is that also might be the name of the angel of death. I don't remember exactly. I would need to look it up really quickly. But yeah, for sure. In commentaries, for sure, he's written about, but nothing explicit in the Tanakh in general.
Fair enough. All right, Sam, I see your hand raised. Let's hope the audio quality is a little better this time around.
Do I sound like a person now?
Yeah, whatever you did, it fixed it. All right, brother, weigh in.
Okay. So, first off, I just dropped 2 things down for of Metatron. And yes, Supernaturals claimed him to be a scribe, but that's neither here nor there. There, according to certain apocryphal texts from the vampires, and I'm not talking about the dwarven vampires, I'm talking about voices vampires. That some believe that he is actually the transformed prophet Enoch, that when he was ascended up without dying, that he transformed into an angel. I, however, do not ascertain that. I don't believe a man will ever become an angel because we are higher than the angels and everything.
Correct.
Um, however, do find it funny. Because to the Mormons, the dwarven vampires, their Moses like person would be Brigham Young because he's the one that took them to Utah. He's also the one that started the polygamy and bili- uh, bigamy. So you can have two
Uh,
or more wives. But
Joseph
he
Smith
also,
started that too, though, bro. That wasn't just a Brigham thing. Joseph Smith
I
had a
know.
couple of wives. One of them was like 12.
Yeah, but Brigham Young was also one that says, yeah, you're not gonna have any colored wives because he absolutely hated that.
Oh yeah, dude. The Mormons believed that black people came from demons up until like the 80s. They finally swapped from that and finally like, okay, maybe the blacks can go to heaven too. I don't know.
I mean,
We'll see. It's like, wait, I'm sorry. The 1970s or 80s, somewhere in there. It's like you're just now acknowledging that. That's
I
crazy.
mean, there is a thought that Noah's sons were the progenitor of most of the races. I can't I think they said
Ham.
Ham. Ham
Ham's the
was the
one that is.
progenitor of
Yeah.
he was the curse. He got cursed by Noah, and he was the progenitor of the African race, and one became the progenitor of the Mongoloid race, and then the other one became the Caucasian, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I don't
Yeah.
remember the scientific term, but each one of them is a progenitor, which is kind of funny because they each had a wife, and women's. While yes, we can trace mitochondrial DNA to a one woman because every man's mitochondrial DNA exclusively comes to from a woman, but there's three strands of it now due to the three wives of that were on Noah's Ark of that Noah's children's wives. So it all makes sense, and I I mean personally, talking about how a guy will convert over a religion to his wife, all I'm going to say is you can't put a price on good pussy, and good pussy will have a man do some stupid shit.
I've seen many a man sign over everything
Um,
for something like that. It's a fact.
I will admit I have done some stupid shit.
Hmm.
But I was young and dumb and full of cum.
Wait, yeah. I mean, we've all done some stupid things in our youth. I get this
I
100%.
will
But, you
I
know,
would never convert religions, and circumcision is mutilation.
respectfully, I
What?
disagree with you.
Also disagree.
But that's the thing. This is one of those. This is
You're
especially
cutting
these days. This is such a topic. Everybody's like, you're cutting off nerve endings from the skin, not from the head of your dick. That's not the.
true, but okay. So do you not consider cutting oneself self mutilation?
I guess it depends on for what purpose.
If you cut something off of your body, that is mutilation. If God,
Sure.
uh, look, I understand God said it's a covenant and everything to show your faith, but at the same time, if God didn't want that to be on humans, He wouldn't have specifically put it there.
I disagree.
Yeah. Same.
I
Same.
mean, is also the fact that it's there, and the fact that we have to cut it off. Like one of the lessons that I was taught to learn from it. And by the way, this is obviously a religious thought, but like the whole idea is that we should be sexually pure, that we should not like go out and control ourselves, especially us men. And I speak very much so for myself, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but like I know that it's very, very easy to let that part of our anatomy, control us or control me. So the whole idea is to cut it back and control it.
I
Um,
understand that.
but like the fact that so here, I also don't think that so if people want to get circumcised for cleanliness reasons, no problem. But like honestly, if nobody else besides Jews got circumcised, like that's okay with me because the origins of it, at least from what I believe, is the covenant between God and the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So like anybody who wants to do it, fantastic, but it's not a necessity. Like as
Uh,
opposed to Jews, it is like the Jews can't even um take the Korban Pesach. We're not even supposed to have any of that unless you're circumcised. So there's rules and regulations for it.
No, I would agree to it. Let me ask you this, Sam. Just throwing this out as an example. Do you believe that somebody gauging their ears is mutilation? The reason why I'm asking is because you weren't born with these massive holes in your ears. Do you believe that somebody that is under their own fruition, free human being, put gauges in their ears? Do you believe that they are mutilating their body, their holy temple, or do you think that this is a them thing?
I mean, I have tattoos. I have my ears piercings. I personally wouldn't do it, but at the same time, that's not you cutting a piece of your body off.
Okay.
There is no cutting.
This
You're
is not a
pushing
necessarily apples to apples comparison. I understand that. But my point is you are doing a modification to your body that God didn't give you.
I mean, I can't really. I mean, with that being said, I've also only body. I mean, I want to do a type of body modification called scarification.
That is absolutely that is mutilation by definition.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not cutting actual flesh off of me.
No, you're scarring your body, which now we are talking apples to apples.
I mean, what is a tattoo if not a designed scar?
Oh, no, I'm here for it. And for my religious reasons is the reason why I'm here for it. Keep in mind, there's multiple times in the Bible where God mentions tattoos. The Bible says that God has a tattoo of your face on the palm of his hand. There's also a time when there was a celebration that was done in God's honor, and he was so pleased with it that he gave everybody in attendance earrings and nose rings. This is all that God gave the people. See, I don't think that any of this is, negative. What I am saying is, and I don't also believe that. And
if a man is gonna get circumcised, I personally believe that should be a thing that he does when at the age of maturity. If he wants to do that to get closer to God, yes, she'll go for it. But if I have an old lady and she says when the hospital says she wants a kid to get circumcised, I'm like, nope, you ain't doing that. Not to my son. Fuck you, bitch. No.
I will say that you would rather it be done when they're babies and don't remember. I think that's more humane,
I think the whole practice of it is not humane. Myself, that's not a thing. Throughout my family, that's not a thing. So,
I mean, look, everybody's got their own things. And I'm not saying that I believe that if you don't get circumcised, then you're going to hell. Like, no, we live under a new covenant these days, right? Circumcision is not a part of the covenant that Christians live under these days. However, it's also a thing that has been practiced for thousands of years safely and ethically. So I know that a lot of people are going to get mad at me for this one.
What about the ones that suck the penis blood that they're putting the baby dick in their mouth?
I'm not talking about how that is done. I'm talking about in today's modern world, doctors are not sucking baby dicks. You know what I'm saying? So no, it can be done ethically, and that's up to the parents to decide. But I don't think that there's some sort of a crazy. The same community that is very anti-circumcision is the same community that is very anti-vax. And the problem is that they have a lot of very good points, but then they take it to such a far degree to where they're like, you are making it to where they'll never have sexual gratification as an adult. And I'm like, that's very inaccurate. Extremely inaccurate, actually. You're cutting off so many nerve endings. No, you're cutting off a section of skin that, while it has so many nerves. No, sure, I have nerves on the back of my hand.
2,500 nerve endings that would be quicker to get to sexual gratification.
Right.
Are they needed to live? No, but at the same time, it's just why would we be cutting skin off of the genitals? That's one misslip and you just castrated a child.
That misslip is a bit of an extra misslip, dog. The head of the dick is good ways away. Yeah, it has happened in some very extreme circumstances. But I believe in making rules for the majority, not the exception. That's just me. And if you're telling me that I got a 99.95% chance of this procedure going on fine and a 0.05% chance of something going catastrophically wrong, personally, I'm good with that. And everybody's got their own vibes on this. I'm not trying to convert your way of thinking, nothing like that. It's just, I believe that it's a preference choice. What I'm saying is a lot of the literature, you have to read the biases on it, because these people are acting like a man that's been circumcised will be always, he'll never understand what it's supposed to really feel like. And like, that's very untrue.
Well, no. So when a man is circumcised, it does become desensitized by like a fraction.
Yeah, so he can last longer. I don't think I've ever heard of a woman complain of such.
I agree.
I'm just being real, dude. Yeah, I've heard women say that they prefer uncut versus cut. Meanwhile, these same women are the ones that are asking why men don't last long enough. And it's like, well, I'm not trying to be that guy here to tell you this, but there ain't no Santa Claus, and perhaps you should change your taste. I don't know.
Or perhaps they swap up some positions, do something.
But
I don't know. If a guy is a one pump chump, then he needs to hang it up. That's sad.
But I mean, that's the thing, man. You get a dude that's uncircumcised. He rolls back the skin. He's working on a time clock right now. The wind blows the right way. It's all over. You know what I'm saying?
Speak for yourself there, Bubba.
I don't have to. I'm cut. So I can't speak on behalf of this. I'm speaking on behalf of my boys that I know that are uncut. They're like, yeah, it's great until I roll it back. Then it's going down. So I'm like, so you just going in there like sheathed. You're doing the deed while the tool is still within the sheath, and then you're deciding to unsheath it. And he's like, yeah, when it's go time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Then it's all, I'm like, all right.
They're doing something wrong, because
I wouldn't know, dude. I would not know. I've never watched the practice of how an uncut person gets after it, but I'm just going to assume it works out for
the same way. It works the exact same way. But if they're like on a time limit, like 15 minutes, dog, you stop jacking it. You need to do something.
Or you need to do that more to desensitize it. Ergo, the reason for the cut. But okay, anyway, we have gone so far off on the dick conversations for this evening. Norse Trucker, come in, weigh in on this with your Norse paganism. Tell us where we're fucked up here.
You guys are talking about dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about as fucked up as it is. For one, be it that I'm a Catholic, I'm uncut, or I'm cut. So, you know.
Wait, pause. You just said very conflicting things. You said, first off, I said Norse pagan. Now you're saying Catholic. Now you're saying cut, uncut. Clarify, dog.
No. Sorry. Be it that I was a Catholic.
Yeah.
Right. I'm cut.
Okay. Figured as
right?
much.
Okay. Yeah. But let's not talk about dicks, please.
Yeah. We can definitely change topics. It's all good. I think we've had our fill of the penile conversation this evening.
Right?
That works out. Moving on to the next article. Another Democratic Socialist victory. Angie Nixon in Florida sends shockwaves through party establishment. So for anybody who has been keeping up, by the way, if you're listed as a communist, and I believe as a socialist as well, by federal law, you are not allowed to hold any elected position. Okay, if you are a communist and you win an election, you are supposed to be arrested on federal charges. It's just one of these laws that's on the books that nobody really enacts or enforces, right? So now we have this situation going on. Direct quote, they call us extreme. They call us radical. The progressive Senate candidate said, but I think people see through that. No, actually, we don't. We really don't, especially with old Angie Nixon. For those that don't know, Angie Nixon just had this go down.
She only joined the organization back in June, but as a state lawmaker for 3 terms, she's been known as a progressive firebrand. They're interrupting the state house with a bullhorn and then staging a sit-in at Ron DeSantis' office this year to protest his gerrymandered congressional map.
I will not allow you to destroy our democracy.
So real quick, I'm just to circle back to what she said here. Direct quote from Angie Nixon. They call us extreme. They call us radical. But I think people see through that. Cut back to her with a pink megaphone in a hearing and just getting after it here.
And then what they're
Okay, so again, I don't think that it's crazy to say that this is extremist behavior. I'm not saying there's not a time and place to act an ass. I'm saying literally for no reason. You can look up the reasons why she did that and what was being voted on that day. It was basically just to loudly show her ass. But here we go. It wasn't supposed to be this way. In conservative Florida, Alex Vindman, a retired Army intelligence officer who blew the whistle on Donald Trump in his first term, yep, y'all heard that right, appeared set to carry the Democratic establishment banner as the party staged a long shot bid to topple the Republican U.S. Senator. Right off the rip, I would say good fucking luck, but okay. All right. Florida's Democratic voters had other ideas. Democratic socialist Angie Nixon emerged a surprise victor in the U.S. Senate primary on Tuesday after a campaign in which she was outfunded and outspent by Vindman at a ratio of more than 10-1. This actually kind of sounds familiar to me. I brought up Brandon Herrera in Texas, and he was also outspent 10-1 by the incumbent. And he's a Republican. The guy who he was taking the position from was listed as a Republican, Tony Gonzalez, who is actually not. He's a rhino and a bitch. I'm going to be honest with you. But either way, he was outspent 10-1 and lost the vote by like 400 votes. This time around, he's pretty much handily clinched the position. And that's before Tony Gonzalez's assistant set herself on fire for an affair between the two of them. That's a whole other conversation. But the point is, so Angie Nixon was outspent by the incumbent, right? 10-1. And the voters, for some reason, thought that she was the voice they wanted to speak on their behalf in Washington, D.C. Her triumph sent shockwaves through the Democratic Party machine as it prepares to mount a challenge to the incumbent Republican Senator Ashley Moody in November's U.S. midterm elections. Now, here's the deal. As of now, Ashley Moody is the incumbent. So all this was knocking out the other Democratic nominee that was highly more favored than she was. Doesn't matter. She's louder. She's got more eyes on her. The people are moving in that direction. She's got a lot of motion. So with that in mind, yeah, we're moving forward here. Nixon, a tenacious left-wing fighter and former union organizer who has represented Jacksonville in the Florida House since 2020. A union organizer. Now, I'm not anti-union, but I am saying that typically when there's unions, there's fuck shit afoot. So, all right. She raised $975,000 in her campaign as against Vindman's $16.3 million, but garnered more than 750,000 votes to her opponent's 550. An overwhelming victory that has left his campaign scratching its head as to where it all went wrong. I got a weird feeling. It's because of social media. It's because she knows how to go viral. The legacy politicians don't understand, well, maybe we should be using the internet for our campaigns. They're just now getting hip to that fact. Meanwhile, yeah, younger people who understand how algorithms work are able to get their name out there way more for way less money. It's crazy to see how it's shifting. But anyway. Quote, the reason we all collectively thought that he was the favorite was because he had the national name recognition. Yes, because that's what wins elections these days. The same name you've seen on the ballot for the last 8 elections that didn't win, they're going to see that name and know he means business. Fucking retard. And especially because he was able to raise so much money. No, that means that he was plugged into certain wealthy benefactors, but the problem is wealthy benefactors don't actually equal votes. Now, I understand that elections and campaigns take a lot of money. Every yard sign, every radio ad, every podcast ad, whatever, that costs actual dollars. I understand that. Unfortunately, this is no longer the 90s. You know what I mean? This is no longer the day and age where people are going to go with the identity of whose sign they have in their yard right now. It's about whose post you liked. What viral thing did you share to your feed? That's what wins these days. And it's crazy that they're just now catching up to this. This was Aubrey Jewett. The jokes write themselves. That's all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, professor of political science at University of Central Florida. She noted, however, that polling largely focused on how Nixon and Vindman would respectively fare against Moody in a general election, rather than whether Democratic voters preferred Nixon or Vindman as their party's candidates. Shocker, they asked weird questions and got an answer they didn't expect. What? Is Florida ready for a Democratic Socialist candidate to enter a general election? I personally don't think so. I still don't know the answer, said Jewett. But what this primary showed was that with the Democratic Party base, there's a strong majority of progressive social democrats in Florida, just like there apparently is across the country. Now, this is an interesting statement to bring up. So y'all can look up the statistics on this. They did a poll, and I understand polls are only as good as the organization that took them, right? Okay, fine. But with that being said, I've seen at least one poll that is saying that of the Democrats, of the progressives, of the liberals, if you were to take a 100% account of them, 53% of the current people listed as Democrat are in favor of democratic socialism. I'm going to break that down a little deeper. Over half of the Democratic voting base right now for the Democratic Party wants Marxism in the United States. If there was ever a time for y'all to actually start being worried, it is now. The time to worry is now, because this is how this starts. It's not just the people who are left of center. It's not just the screaming blue-haired liberals in the far left doing the... No. By and large, the entirety, and granted, I understand that, like I said, the poll is only as good as the group that took the poll. I get that. If that is true, if it's even half or even approaching half of the Democrats actually want socialism in the United States, it might be time to start either like staking your bets and like making sure that you bring up the next generation to understand what capitalism is and why it is so critical and why America is the world's only superpower because of capitalism. And if you know any socialist, it's time to introduce them to a history book. That's all I'm going to say on that. It's really now more than ever, it is time to introduce the people that act like Marxism is a great idea. It's time to introduce them to actual history books, teaching actual facts, not the skewed versions of. And they need to answer the question, where has it ever worked before? And if you can't find one example, because there isn't one, of where socialism or communism worked in another country, why do you think it would work in America? And they need to answer that question for themselves. And because they won't be able to, because duh, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 5, they're going to have to come to their own conclusions when they get to a certain age, when they get to a certain maturity level, I believe. But anyway, moving forward, or they'll act like this chick who is the Democratic Socialist candidate who clearly hasn't gained any maturity and is in the middle of in the middle of the Florida House Committee in a pink jumpsuit with a pink megaphone screaming at everybody that you're out of order. This is against the Constitution. This is the time for the revolution. And people are like, you know what? You're loud enough. I'm going to vote for you. It's like, y'all, it's time to actually grow up, people. It really is. Moving on here. Nixon's victory followed a series of primary wins for progressive candidates this summer, including in Philadelphia, Colorado, Michigan, and New York City. Shocker to all of those. Who could have ever seen liberal wins in these critical places, right? She only recently joined the Democratic Socialists of America and was not endorsed by them. That may also be a bit of a red flag. If the party that she is like there for doesn't want nothing to do with her, y'all just okay. But I'm not worried about it. I don't believe she's going to win the election as of this moment. Moving on. She is also set to face trial next month, charged with trespassing and resisting an officer without violence after a sit-in protest at the office of Ron DeSantis in May. So she staged a sit-in at the governor's office, and she's already facing charges for that. I don't believe they're going to let that one slide by, especially now that she just clinched the vote. But okay. It remains to be seen how attractive Nixon will be to Florida's wider electorate in November. Again, the jokes write themselves. As Jewett notes, Florida is heavily populated by Hispanic communities, and Moody is certain to try to affix the socialist label to Nixon's campaign that has long proven toxic at ballot boxes for such voter groups. Yeah, most Hispanics do not get down with socialism, specifically the Cubans who inhabit a good chunk of Florida. You want to piss off the Hispanic community? Go ahead and tell them that you're in favor of communism or socialism. I'm not concerned with this one. I'm concerned with how the Democrats put her in as the nominee, not that she's about to win the Florida. Like that, no, she's not. But at the same time, there are places where this has happened, i.e. New York City with Mom Donnie, which if there's ever a time for you to be more critical of Mom Donnie, dude, did y'all just see his video where he was speaking to the Chinese on behalf of being the mayor of a city? Why is the mayor of a city reaching out to another foreign nation? That's crazy. Governors of states don't even do that for the most part, which to that point, there was a time when Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco was reaching out to Cuban president to ask him for aid for things. And it was like, you're like dumb. You're like really dumb. Why would you reach out to a Marxist country for aid as if they have aid to give, first off? Second off, you are the governor of a state. You reach out to other governors. You don't reach out to foreign powers. Fuck is wrong with you? But all right, moving on. The conservative commentator Noah Rothman, writing in National Review on Wednesday, went one step further, characterizing Nixon as a communist curious. I don't think she's curious about it. I think she's pretty much 10 toes down on it. Even if the race for Senate in Florida is now a foregone conclusion, this race will still feature prominently in the national conversation, he argued. Why? Because it demonstrates that Republicans are right when they warn that the socialist phenomenon is coming to a town near you. That is a fact. That is a fact. Nixon win leaves Democratic leaders in the U.S. Senate in something of a quandary. Pollsters already appear to have concluded that Nixon's primary victory has limited Democrats' chance of taking the seat. Yeah. Within hours of her fiery victory speech on Tuesday night, Sabato's crystal ball, the respected analytical wing of the University of Virginia Center for Politics, moved the Florida Senate race from likely Republican to safe Republican. Yeah, this was a throwaway vote. It also leaves Democratic leaders in the U.S. Senate who publicly warmly welcome Nixon's win in something of a quandary. While their path to reclaiming control of the upper chamber from Republicans was never predicated on success in Florida, Vindman, as a moderate, was considered to have at least an outside shot of an upset. Accordingly, the party's hierarchy was preparing to send dollars and resources to bolster his campaign. Now, with Nixon on the ticket, analysts expect a rethink. The Democratic establishment was more comfortable with Vindman. He had a demonstrated track record of being able to raise money, and Nixon does not, because that's what it all comes down to. The almighty dollar bill, y'all. Florida has about 1.5 million registered Republican voters than Democrats, or more registered voters. So Florida has got 1.5 million in favor of Republicans than Democrats. Nixon is really going to have her work cut out for her to show that she can raise money, or if she can't, to show that somehow they can recreate the success of the grassroots campaign that brought her victory here. Yeah, I don't see that, dude. Honestly, Nixon, who was reprimanded for using a bullhorn on the Florida House floor earlier this year, does not care for internal party wrangling. And she has made one thing clear. She is unlikely to change tack as she presents herself to the wider statewide electorate before November. Yeah, I don't think she's going to change. She's going to be dressed like a fucking clown with a horn just to piss people off and act like if you don't look at her like she's an equal, then you're clearly a bigot or something. I don't know. If believing a mom, oh, wow, here we go, a mom. It's not because of her crazy antics. She's a mother. No one fucking asked about that, but all right. If believing a mom shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to keep a roof over her head is extreme, call me extreme. Ashley Moody can call me whatever she wants, but in November, she'll be calling me senator. No, she will not. No, she will not. That's crazy work. Crazy work to say such a statement right there, but okay. And no, a mom shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to keep a roof over her head. Fair. But I know tons of people, myself included, who for the majority of my adult life have had to work 2 jobs to maintain what I have. So, welcome to America? I don't know what to say here. I really don't. Anyway, I am going to check the chat real quick before I jump to the next item on the docket here. Let's see. Supernatural. I'm 100% unvaxxed and I was circumcised. There you go. Tristan's out here living that life. We're getting back to the cut and uncut thing. All right, we're skipping ahead from the whole circumcision conversation here. Let's see. If they weren't born in America, they have no reason or right to be in our government, nor should they be able to vote. Agreed. Let no foreigner become resident. If they are commies or Islamic, they shouldn't be allowed to enter. If they do, immediately bagged and tagged to the black site. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of communism taking root in our country. And I used to think that was so stupid. I used to think, like, you mean the Cold War was against an idea, against communism? What are we talking? But like, no, because of like the perestroika arrangement, right? And how communism is supposed to seep in at the very lower levels and work its way up to the top. And they did that in so many nations. Like, no, that's the thing. It is a virus. It is a cancer. And it is also the most deadly thought process that the human race has ever devised. Like, and you can look this up by the numbers here. No other system or philosophy or whatever has killed more people in such a short amount of time than communism has. And it's by a large margin. I've talked about this before. I got into this argument with a friend of mine. Actually, it was my cousin. And we were talking about how she says Christianity has killed more people on planet Earth than any other ideal whatsoever. And by the numbers, that's true. Because we're going that route. It's like 400 million, 700 million. I forget what the number she quoted me was. But okay, yes, Christianity. And we could say like the Crusades, right? We talk about the Inquisitions. There's been a lot of things that people have done in the name of Christ that was wrong because it wasn't actually in the name of Christ, but like they used the name of Christ to propagate their actions. I'm with you on this. If you look at the amount of people that communism has killed, Christianity, and we could be honest here, they didn't really get together in one set as far as what they believed until 400 AD, 450. They didn't actually become like the national religion of Rome until the 350, 360s AD. So, all right, cool. So if we're going to be real generous here, we could say that 1700 years of Christianity has killed that many hundreds of millions. And then go ahead and look at how many people have died as a result of Marxism in 170, 180 years that it's existed. You are, like, by the numbers, 11 times more likely to be killed because communism just exists out there than you are if you are facing the entirety of Christendom when we're on the warpath. You are 11 times more likely to be killed because Marxism exists. I know it's a crazy statistic. Do your math on this. It's mind-blowing. So yes, to say that democratic socialists and Marxists are taking in on the whole political spectrum in the United States, I'm a little worried, y'all. I'm a little concerned. I'm not ashamed to say that, but all right, moving forward here. Personally, I think we should close the borders completely for 10 years. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, actually. I think that'd be a really good move. Bitch can't even spell Constitution. No, she can't. No, she can't, dude. Sounds like a character that has been propped up by Soros family. Dude, yeah, I would not be shocked if the under $1 million that she was able to raise absolutely came from Soros's wallet. I could see it. Blazarian lost and Fishback lost in Florida, but Blazarian had a very strange drop in live vote count during counting. I heard about this. I didn't do any digging into this, Tony. So if you want to clarify what you mean with the whole Blazarian and Fishback situation, I would appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. Fishback, I didn't see anything funny happening. He was running for governor primary candidate against Byron Donalds, and Byron Donalds got a way higher share of the vote. Fishback got like 10%. I think Fishback was third, but he's the best on Twitter. Bill Zarian was running in Florida's 6th district against Randy Fine. And you may recognize that name. He is super Jewish, super
Yeah.
Zionist. He's called Palestinians demons on Twitter and lots of other rhetoric like that.
Because they
Dan
are, Tony. I'm
Bilzerian's-
joking. I'm joking.
Dan
Continue.
Bilzerian's rhetoric is probably even more extreme in the opposite direction. And man, yeah, Israel was just so huge in this campaign, but Bilzerian, I think he got 19,000 votes and Fine got like 50,000 or something. So it was still a pretty big victory. But as the trend was going, the live vote count, Bilzerian was up to 8,000, and then suddenly it dropped to 6,000. And nobody knows why, but everyone's pointing and going, oh, see, fraud, they took it away. I don't know what the hell happened there, but it's suspicious as hell, like so many things these days.
I don't understand why Israel is being brought up for state elections. What is a governor going to do in the way of Israel?
Well, in the 6th district, maybe there's a lot of Jews there. I know there's a lot of Jews in Florida. It
Yeah.
must be an issue that resonates a lot. But anyway, one thing that's going to work against Donald is he's black. And a lot of Hispanics do not like blacks so much. And that's also going to be working against this lady we were just talking about, Nixon. I already forgot her first name.
It doesn't matter. She's not going to
Angie
win.
Nixon.
Sure.
But yeah, she got the left of the Democratic Party to vote for her, and I don't think she'll win in the general. And
No.
she's got, her extremism working against her and being black. Vindman is Jewish, by the way.
Of course he is.
He was the one trying to testify to impeach Trump in 2019 or 2020. And he said, the interagency already decided that we needed to support Ukraine. And who does this Trump guy think he is to come along and try to put strings on some of the support that we give to Ukraine? Strings that didn't even end up being attached anyway, but
Right.
Trump was
That's what I'm
impeached over
saying,
that.
dude. No matter what, if he helps Ukraine, he's horrible for it. If he doesn't help Ukraine, then he's horrible for it. No matter what, there's haters no matter what.
Yeah, it was related to Burisma and Hunter Biden for
Yes.
sure. And
It's
that
a
was
mess.
Yeah, so that I think rounds up everything we need to know about Florida today.
Yeah, I
in
don't.
their elections.
Aside from her race, which, to be honest, I didn't think played much of a faction in this one, just her being a Democratic socialist who, even if the Democrats really do want that, dude, Florida is outweighed with the Republicans on this. I don't think she's going to make a whole lot of difference in the election. So I agree with you on that point, regardless. White Boy Wizard says that everyone is going full retard, bro. What the fuck is happening out there? Dude, I wish I could answer you, Tristan. I wish I could give you a legitimate answer as to why so many people have lost their goddamn minds, but somehow we're just out here. People are just out here fucking about. Just
Oh yeah, one other
willy-nilly.
thing. I
It's the
think
vaccine
Mamdani was talking to
boosters, bro.
Chinese speakers in his district. He wasn't talking to communist China. People do political ads in Spanish all the time. They're talking to people who already live here.
Are we sure about that? I just saw the clip earlier today. It seemed like he was trying to reach out to Chinese people in China, the same way that old John Cena did it.
Yeah, I should have looked at the translation. I only understood the first few words of when he said, "I don't actually speak," but his accent was better than mine is. He said, 我不知道中文, which means I don't actually speak Chinese.
That's nothing new, dude. Have you seen him do his phase change when he was speaking to that person from Uganda?
No, I didn't see that.
So his mama was big with the Hollywood industry, right? Allegedly, he helped. Somebody who's more in tune with the Marvel universe? Help me out here. There was a Disney movie that was like a spinoff of Black Panther. It was something super Wakanda, and Mamdani was apparently one of the liaisons for this. And as he's speaking to this woman who's from Africa, you could tell that he starts to do this thing with his accent where he goes to blah, 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 blah. Cut to, he's in New York and he's speaking regular American English. He does phase changing like a motherfucker. So to see him also throw on some Mandarin was like, all right, bro. You're the mayor of a city. You're not even a governor. You're not a state senator. You're the mayor of a city, a massive one. I'll give you that. But you're like, stop that.
Okay, I looked it up. What he said is, "Hello, my name is Zoran Mamdani. I don't know Chinese, but I want to try. The New York City government is giving away more than 2,000 Broadway performance tickets for free." That's apparently what he said. So it's not to people in China, it's to people here or people
Why?
in New York City.
Why would he give a statement to say they're giving away free Broadway tickets in Chinese? Like, is he trying to make the Chinese people go to Broadway more often?
Well, do you remember in 2012 when John Huntsman was running for the Republican primary and he knew Chinese and he dropped some Chinese randomly in the debate? He said, 他不太了解这个情形, which means this candidate over here doesn't understand the situation.
I
And
don't remember
my
this.
my wife's grandparents, who are Chinese, said, "Oh, he speaks Chinese. What he name?" Those are
Oh,
their
shit.
exact words. That's all they need to know. Here are a couple Chinese words, and they would vote for him probably.
Fair enough. So Mamdani just putting something out there. It's again, it's like phase changing. He's throwing it out there to gain the support from that. Now, I don't know what the Chinese population of New York is. I know that Kathy Hochul had a Chinese spy in her cabinet. So did old governor before her. I forget his name. He's a cuck. Him and his brother both. I forget. But Cuomo, that's the one. Old beta boy. He also had a Chinese spy in his administration. Then you had the secret Chinese police station that was bagging and tagging Chinese citizens in New York. That was a thing. I don't know, but the fact that Mamdani is dropping that with all of that controversy that is pretty fresh in the mind of people, it's not a good look, although he may have gained some Chinese support. Chinese people are very pro-Marxism. So, I mean, him being a socialist and speaking the Chinese, I mean, it might have solidified his next election. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, get this. According to the Google AI overview, approximately 600,000 people speak Chinese in New York City, making it the second most common non-English language after Spanish.
I did not
That's
know
way
that.
bigger than you probably expected, right? It's bigger than I expected. I knew there were Chinese people there. I didn't know it was that many.
I definitely knew that Chinatown existed there. I did not know it was over 500,000, let alone 600,000. So, okay. Fair play. I also don't think that was a smart move, but maybe it was. I don't know the political spectrum when it comes to Manhattan. You know what I mean? Maybe, like I said, maybe that one move just now secured his next victory. It's very possible.
Yeah, I think it was a smart move. And his accent wasn't horrible. Remember when Elliot Spitzer tried to say something in Spanish? And
I think so.
It was about COVID. And SNL parodied him. His Spanish was like Peggy Hill Spanish. It was horrible.
Peggy
You remember
Hill
that show,
Spanish.
right? Hola, me llamo Peggy Hill. Y yo soy un substitute Espanol teacher.
I fucking love it. And dude, she thought that she was like fluent. It was, Peggy was
She was good at it. Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. Let's move on. I see another one in the chat here. Guys, I need to sleep. Y'all have a good night. Dawn's raised. Thank you so much for joining us for a bit here. All right. With that, let's get on to the next topic of discussion here. Already played that one. This is an interesting one here. A medical supply company submitted $1.42 billion in fraudulent claims. An Ohio man admits laundering $3.4 million. Let's talk about this here. So a medical supply company submitted $1.4 billion in false and fraudulent health insurance claims. And this Ohio man admitted to helping move millions of dollars generated by the operation through U.S. banks. Eldar Zarbevel, 45, of Pepper Pike, pleaded guilty to one count of money laundering after facilitating approximately $3.4 million in healthcare fraud proceeds for a transactional criminal organization. A transactional criminal organization. Federal prosecutors say the organization, based in Russia and elsewhere, hold on, what? That's crazy work. But okay, was behind a massive operation targeting Medicare and private health insurers. Zarbavel, doesn't matter, helped it access the U.S. financial system by opening bank accounts in Northeast Ohio for Royce Medical Supply, LLC. Damn it, Royce. A federal Florida durable medical equipment company. Interesting. Over just, what the hell? Of course, I have to The ads, I swear. Just over 2 months in 2024, Zarbevel facilitated the deposit, transfer, and withdrawal of roughly $3.4 million in fraud proceeds. He is now the 16th person convicted in Operation Gold Rush, which the Justice Department describes as the largest healthcare fraud case it has ever prosecuted. Wow. I'm loving it. Royce Medical Supply became one piece of a far larger network of durable medical equipment companies used by the organization. Between July 2022 and July 2024, the organization submitted approximately $1.4 million in false and fraudulent claims. Talked about that already. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services suspended reimbursement on nearly all of those claims, but some were still paid. The successful reimbursement created another challenge for the organization, getting the fraud proceeds into the U.S. financial system and moving the money elsewhere. So, long story short, your boy was able to get in there and make it look legitimate. I'm just saying he faces up to 20 years in prison here. He helped provide that financial access for Royce Medical Supply Court. Records say he opened accounts for the Florida company at banks in Northeast Ohio. We already talked. Why is it repeating everything? This article has repeated the same thing over and over again. The money laundering count carries a maximum potential sentence of 20 years in federal prison. His actual punishment will be determined by a federal judge after consideration of federal sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. Federal authorities say 35 people have now been charged through Operation Gold Rush. He is the 16th. Okay. Well, there we have that. All right, next thing on the docket, a jury comes to a unanimous ruling in the Sig Sauer unintended discharge case. For any of you that don't know what this is, I'll explain, but let's watch the video first.
A federal jury says there were no defects in the Sig Sauer P320. It comes in the case of an unintended discharge of a firearm. The jury considered product liability, negligence, and breach of implied warranty and ruled unanimously in favor of Sig Sauer. The case follows the dismissal of a class action lawsuit against Sig Sauer.
Okay, for those that have not been keeping up with it, I brought it up on a couple of different shows. Sig Sauer is a phenomenal firearms manufacturer, in my humble opinion. The Sig Sauer P320, it is a model of pistol that was made. And essentially, there has been not one, not two, not dozens. There have been unknown numbers. I would say it's over 100 just within the last year that have come forward of this particular pistol firing when nobody pulled the trigger. Like that's a whole statement, right? Guns don't kill people. You could set a gun right now. I have one in my hand. Boom. I could set this pistol on the table and I know for a fact this weapon is not going to fire on its own. Apparently with the SIG P320, that is not a true statement. And they have had many YouTube videos have gone out of people showing how this has happened. Basically, if the slide is pulled back ever so slightly, it frees up the trigger and it can fire. And it's dangerous as hell. But apparently, the jury has come to a unanimous ruling that that's not the case. Never mind the evidence. Never mind that they could bring a P320 into the courtroom with a blank round to demonstrate what this is. Never mind all of that. Doesn't matter. Money was exchanged, and ta-da, now all of a sudden SIG has been acquitted of all of the charges. However, no one in the right mind is allowing this. Hell, I don't think there's a single firearm range around me that will allow you to shoot your P320 there. I don't know of many weapons that are against the law or against the rules of the firing range for you to bring in and shoot. As far as pistols are concerned, I know for a fact that they don't allow the SIG P320. Do with that information what you want, you know? Anyway, thought it was interesting enough to bring it up. Vista Energy up 4% after billionaire Peter Thiel buys stake in an Argentine shale oil producer. Yeah, let's talk about this. Peter Thiel is doing his shit again. Oil producer Vista Energy jumped in pre-market on Monday after it was revealed that billionaire Peter Thiel's hedge fund had acquired a stake in the Argentine company. Thiel Macro LLC reported that it owned almost 1.2 million American depository shares of Vista Energy, worth about $76 million. As of the second quarter ending in June 30th, according to a U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filings published on Friday. Vista Energy was last seen up nearly 4.3% in pre-market trading on Monday. Reason for this, I understand y'all might be asking, why are they up so high? Why is that happening? because a wealthy benefactor has bought up a bunch of shares and given it a new evaluation, which is why it has gone to this level. And if y'all understand how that works, it's the same conversation to like how, Elon Musk apparently is the world's first trillionaire. Not actually, y'all. Not actually. Let me put it like this. I heard the fat electrician make this description, and it's a really good one. Let's say you own your house outright, and you get some wealthy billionaire to come in and say, hey, I'm going to buy 1/1000th of your home for $1 million. You could live there. You could do whatever you want with it, but I'm going to own 1% of the equity in your home for $1 million. All right, cool. Then he's going to bring in a bunch of his really wealthy buddies to come in and buy other shares of your house for $1 million a share. Now, on paper, your house is worth $1 billion. Could you sell your house for $1 billion? No, not a fucking chance. That's not how this works. Shares have been evaluated at that much. That does not mean that that's the actual worth of the asset. The same has happened when it comes to SpaceX. The same has happened when it comes to all these crazy evaluations. When you get a wealthy person to come in and give it a crazy evaluation to boost their own income and their profit margins, sure, the overall might be evaluated at this amount. You could liquidate the entire company. You're not going to get that. So just so we're clear, when you look at stocks and how percentages up and down and left and right go, understand that pretty much at that level, money is fairy dust. It's not real. It's a thing to be fucked around with. It's not a thing to be used to better yourself, right? Just so we're all clear here. This was Thiel's fund's second largest disclosed position after Amazon. One of Thiel Macro owned 495,000 shares valued at about $118 million. It also held sizable stakes in several U.S. firms in the energy and power sector. 6 of the fund's 7 new positions disclosed in the filing are in energy or utility companies. This includes American Electrical Power, DTE Energy, First Energy, CMS Energy, Vistra, and X Energy, according to the filing. Vista is the largest independent energy company in Argentina, operating out of Vaca Muerta, probably mispronounced this fine, where it develops shale oil. It has invested over $6.5 billion in Argentina. Thiel recently relocated from the United States with his family to Argentina's capital of Buenos Aires, where he bought a mansion, obviously. Since arriving in Argentina in April, Thiel has also met several senior members of President Javier Milei's government, including Economy Minister Luis Caputo, Deregulation Minister Federico Sturzenegger, and Presidential Advisor Santiago Caputo. Okay. Earlier this year, Thiel also met with Milei, who has pursued sweeping economic reforms aimed at attracting foreign investment. Looked like it worked, particularly into the country's natural resources such as oil, rare earth minerals, and lithium. Well, crazy old dude with the chainsaw apparently has done his job, and he brought in wealthy benefactors to start investing in Argentina. Before we wrap, I did think this was an interesting one to bring up. Apparently, Anne Frank betrayal suspect has now been identified after 77 years. Would love to get y'all's take on this one. Let's learn together.
Well, this is a question that's plagued historians ever since the end of the Second World War. Who was it that betrayed the family of Anne Frank to the Nazis? Anne died in a concentration camp in 1945 at the age of 15 after 2 years in hiding in Amsterdam. Her diary, published after her death, is probably the most famous first-hand account of Jewish life during the war. Using new investigative techniques, detectives have revealed the identity of the man who's thought to have betrayed the Frank family. Anna Holligan reports now from Amsterdam.
The final entry in Anne Frank's diary, Tuesday the 1st of August, 1944. I keep trying to find a way to become what I'd like to be and what I could be if only there were no other people in the world. Yours, Anne M. Frank. 3 days later, the Jewish teenager was arrested. This was the Frank family's hiding place during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. And this question of who betrayed the Frank family, who'd lived in this building undetected for more than 2 years until just months before the end of the war, has remained one of the great mysteries of Dutch history. And now this team of investigators have identified a man who they believe is the key suspect, a Jewish lawyer who'd been based here in Amsterdam helping Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi Germany. No DNA clues or video images existed, so the detectives relied on circumstantial evidence and a note.
The final suspect became the person who sent who was named in an anonymous note sent to Otto Frank shortly after he got back from the camp, Auschwitz, in which a man called Vandenberg was identified as the betrayer.
Otto Frank was Anne's father and the only member of the family to survive the war. The suggestion that the betrayer appears to be someone from within the Jewish community is hard for many to bear. The historic context is critical here.
As it turns out, it's a story of a man who was cornered, and in order to save himself, his wife, his children from the gas chambers.
While there is still a degree of scepticism that we may never know the true identity of the betrayer, this tale serves as a warning, a lesson of what humanity may be capable of in its darkest time. Yet another way Anne Frank's legacy remains alive. Anna Holligan, BBC News, Amsterdam.
Okay, so it was a Jewish lawyer that sold out the family, according to the more recent information. Okay, fair enough. I didn't know that. Very interesting. Before we actually go away, I would like to play this video real quick. It's talking about the United States troops leaving Iraq. I feel like it's a weird one for us to end on, but at the same time, let's see what's up.
About to end a 23-year military presence in Iraq. But here's the real question. Is America leaving Iraq or beginning to leave the Middle East? Because those are two very different things. By September 30th, Washington says all remaining U.S. forces will be out of Iraq, completing a withdrawal agreed with Baghdad back in 2024. Most American troops already left bases elsewhere in the country. The remaining presence has been concentrated in Iraqi Kurdistan. Officially, the explanation is straightforward. ISIS has lost its territorial caliphate, and Washington believes Iraqi forces, including the Peshmerga, can now lead the remaining counterterrorism fight. But then came the Iran war, and suddenly the strategic calculation looked very different. Iranian missiles and drones demonstrated that America's enormous fixed military infrastructure across the Gulf was no longer untouchable. U.S. military facilities in Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, and elsewhere came under Iranian attack, while bases in Iraqi Kurdistan were repeatedly targeted. So the Iran war didn't create the Iraq withdrawal. It reinforced the logic behind a lighter American footprint. But does that mean Washington is abandoning the Middle East? Not even close. America still possesses a vast military network across Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, protecting airspace, shipping lanes, energy infrastructure, and some of the world's most important choke points. So this is withdrawal from Iraq, not withdrawal from the Middle East. And here's where it gets interesting. Because as America reduces its direct footprint, regional states are beginning to build security structures of their own. On August 7th, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement, declaring that an armed attack on one would be treated as an attack on all three. Turkey says the alliance could eventually expand, with Egypt already publicly floated as a potential member. At the same time, Gulf governments are exploring a bigger diplomatic role for China, while other outside powers compete for influence. So watch what is actually happening. America isn't disappearing. It is becoming less dominant as the region's sole security manager. Regional powers are building their own deterrence. Global powers are competing around them. And the Middle East may be shifting from an American-led security order to a system where Washington is still the biggest player, but no longer the only game in town.
Okay, so that actually lines up with what I believe is going to be going down here as far as the Middle East is concerned. I don't think that America is going to be losing. We've heard multiple people say that, the American troops are all going to be out of the Middle East in the next few years. I don't believe this at all. The Middle East is the Middle East. They always got some shit popping off there. There's always going to be U.S. troops, at least on some of these bases, if for nothing else, just to have, forces at the ready, so to speak. Pulling out of Iraq, we'll see what happens. The Iran situation is still doing its thing. It wouldn't be the first time America's gone back on its word. Just throwing that out. But I don't know. I don't know what y'all think about this or any of the other topics we talked about this evening, but I would love to hear about it. And if you're listening to this on the Spotify, on the Apple Podcast, whatever the case is, let me know in the comments what you think. Please also leave the Cult of Conspiracy a 5-star review while you're there. Costs you nothing but a second of your time. And if you would like to join us every Wednesday night for the Cajun Night Live, come join us. It's over at patreon.com/Cajun Night. There's only one tier for entry, as I said in the beginning, y'all. We're just trying to grow this thing to be its own independent information sharing group meetup, if you will. I didn't expect that circumcision would take a giant chunk of time on this episode, but here we are. It is what it is. We talked geopolitics, talked some religion, we talked about dicks. I would say tonight was a success overall, but I would love to see more people here next week. So if you're listening to this and you would like to be a part of the conversation, if for nothing else, just to throw your 2 cents into the ring, maybe disagree with what we're saying, maybe agree with what we're saying. I don't care. I would love to hear it either way. Hope to see you there. As always, everybody, I am the Cajun Knight. Thank all of you for joining me this evening. And as always, God bless.